Chapter 2569. The Ashura Sword Formation attacked. Boom. However, at this moment, flames burst into the sky, as if countless bombs had been ignited. It was magnificent and colorful. The space-time fire. Moreover, the pressure was extremely strong. It was obviously not a second-grade awakened godly body. Fourth grade. On the Lotus, the three vice deans exclaimed in unison. If they remembered correctly, during the battle on the drill ground, Lin Ling only had a second-grade awakened godly body. In such a short period of time, this guy actually broke through 2 grades. Break for me. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's cold voice rang out. At this moment, he had already erupted with the path of fire. His talent was not inferior to his opponent's. In addition, he had also activated the evil flame change, the second transformation, shocking change. In this way, his cultivation realm was not inferior to his opponent's. Therefore, the vines were all broken by Lin Ling. Damn it! Damn it! Qian Sua did not expect such a scene. He originally wanted to defeat Lin Ling in one move, but unfortunately, it had become a dream. However, he immediately sneered, "You have some skills, but that's good too. If you lose too quickly, there will be no value in this battle." Chain chess pieces, thousand eyes kill, mysterious one-color chess. A terrifying thing happened. Around Lin Ling, a large number of vines suddenly burst out, like countless tentacles reaching for Lin Ling. Qian Sua had obviously used a martial art, and it was not weak. An elementary grade 4 martial art complemented his innate talent, allowing his attack power to increase by 1-fold. Such fast speed, when did those vines appear there? Those vines are not formed by realm essence, they are real vines. They are very difficult to cut, and there are so many of them. How is Lin Ling going to block them? Qian Sua's talent is too heaven-defying. Many people were shaking their heads because Qian Sua's people were far away, controlling the demonic vines to attack Lin Ling from a distance. Lin Ling was helpless. How will he deal with it? Even the 3 vice deans revealed looks of curiosity. They guessed that even if Lin Ling could block it, he would definitely suffer heavy injuries. However, as they spoke, they discovered that Lin Ling actually stood there unmoving. Is this guy crazy? Perhaps he has no other choice. The vice presidents all let out cries of surprise, unable to understand Lin Ling's actions. One had to know that those vines covered the sky and blocked the sun. If Lin Ling didn't move, the space he could dodge would become smaller and smaller. As for Lin Ling, he indifferently looked at the incoming vines as if he were looking at countless hands. However, he knew that when facing the dark horse Thousand Locks, he had to erupt with an even greater strength. Otherwise, he would definitely lose. Whoosh! Just as the vines were getting closer and closer to Lin Ling, the sword flew out. The ancient sword soared into the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! The black shadow of the sword danced in the air. 49 swords, showing off their sharpness. Compared to Mu Yuyang's Ashura sword formation, Lin Ling's Ashura sword formation's aura was even more terrifying. Get lost! Still standing on the martial arts platform, Lin Ling waved a single hand. The dazzling 49 swords were sent out, either stabbing, slashing, or lifting, as if 49 swordsmen were using their swords. Looking from afar, Lin Ling was like a sword sage. His every move was pleasing to the eye. Clang! 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 The sound of metal colliding rang out. What was terrifying was that those vines were actually slashed away by the 49 swords. The 49 swords actually formed an airtight sword formation. This was the true Ashura sword formation. So powerful. Far away from the martial arts platform, Mu Yuyang let out a solemn voice. He finally knew why Lin Ling didn't use his sword against him. It was because he really wasn't qualified. One had to know that the Ashura sword formation that he controlled only used brute force to break through the enemy. Of course, the Ashura sword formation also had this kind of power. Once the sword formation passed by, it would be as easy as crushing dry weeds. However, the Ashura sword formation that Lin Ling controlled was like his left and right hands, agile and flexible. It was as if every sword was a sword in his hand. Impossible. Come again. Qian Sua's pupils constricted. He controlled countless vines to attack Lin Ling from afar. However, it was useless. The sword formation sealed everything. This is Lin Ling's trump card? This sword formation simply came to life. The crowd looked at the shocking scene on the martial arts platform. Only now did they know how strong Lin Ling's strength was. It seemed like the battle between the two dark horses would only be decided after 500 moves. You should be exhausting a lot of your soul to activate that kind of sword formation. I'll see how long you can block it. Qian Sua also didn't expect that Lin Ling's sword formation was even stronger than the rumors. A flower immediately appeared in his hand. He looked at the flower tenderly and muttered to himself, 12 jade palaces emptiness, an inch of yearning, an inch of ash. That flower looked rather stunning. It was completely white. After hearing Qian Sua's flower, it actually turned to look at Qian Sua, giving people a strange feeling that made them tremble with fear. Yearning flowers. Seeing this, the vice deans on the martial arts platform exclaimed in surprise. One had to know that although the slender light rui vine looked like a plant, it was actually a monster with a male and a female. Once the yearning flower was activated, the slender light rui vine would become even more frenzied. Because the yearning flower was female, the male who could activate the slender light rui vine would be much more powerful. Sure enough, when the flower appeared, the ground on the martial arts platform was covered with terrifying vines. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as if they were dominating everything. What's the point of this battle if you use such a treasure? Vice Dean's Gong said coldly. If Qian Sua used his strength to crush Lin Ling, he would have nothing to say. He had to accept his loss. However, Qian Sua seemed to be unable to break through after a long time. He actually used a treasure, and it wasn't an ordinary treasure. That was too despicable. There's no rule against using treasures. Although the vice deans of Songling Academy felt that face was irrelevant, they couldn't care less at this moment. Humph. Vice Dean's Gong immediately snorted and looked at Lin Ling. He couldn't help but worry. What's the use of your Ashura sword formation? It's only 49 swords. Let's see how long you can block it. After taking out the god's flower, Qian Sua's aura surged as he snorted coldly. He didn't think that using treasures was unfair at all. In his opinion, he was the dark horse. As long as he defeated Lin Ling, he could make Luo Xinxiang change her mind. Then what's the use of using a foreign object? What was surprising was that Lin Ling was still calm as he looked ahead indifferently. It's enough to defeat you. Qian Sua urged the acacia flower. It was like an aphrodisiac, causing the surrounding vines to soar into the sky and grow crazily. However, at the moment of urging, the vines had a momentary pause. It was as if the process of transporting nutrients had to go out of control for a short period of time. Of course, this was normal. After all, relying on a foreign object wasn't one's own strength. It was naturally difficult to control it. This short period of time was useless to other martial artists, but Lin Ling caught it. With his 10,000 demonic eyes, a moment was as long as a century. At this moment, Lin Ling moved. He took the initiative to attack. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 49 swords shot forward like lightning. They actually shot through the crisscrossing vines. Moreover, they didn't touch a single vine. This showed how terrifying Lin Ling's Ashura sword formation was. What's that? Chapter 2570. The strongest 6 were born. One had to know that Qian Sua's innate talent was heaven-defying. The fine light rui vine could both attack and defend, and could kill enemies from 1,000 miles away. But now, Lin Ling's sword had actually arrived in front of him. The advantage of killing enemies from 1,000 miles away no longer existed. Strangle. At this moment, Lin Ling coldly spat out a sentence. The 49 swords fiercely rushed towards Thousand Locks. Sensing this terrifying sword array, Qian Sua's complexion changed. He never imagined that a sword would appear in front of him. In an instant, he activated his vines to protect his entire body, as if he were protecting an entire world. However, he'd underestimated a 5th-grade Emperor rank sword Dao. Rumble. The Ashura sword formation swept out like lightning. It didn't look like a sword at all. Instead, it looked more like a thunderbolt. The vines were immediately sent flying, their branches and leaves fluttering down. Clearly, the vines that had been hurriedly activated were not very strong. Most importantly, if Qian Sua used the yearning flower, the vines would definitely go crazy and defeat Lin Ling. However, he didn't have the time. The Ashura sword formation was like a crazy sword that chased after him relentlessly. He didn't even have time to breathe. Damn it! Thousand Locks roared furiously. Unfortunately, what he got in return was a frenzied sword formation. He had no choice but to continuously use the boundless sky to block. And around the martial platform, when the crowd saw this terrifying scene, they all opened their mouths wide. They thought that Lin Ling wasn't weak, but he would be defeated within 500 moves. However, the result before their eyes told them that the one being suppressed was Thousand Locks. Lin Ling, it was fine if he did not draw his sword, but once he did, the wind and clouds surged. Is this the real Ashura sword formation? Mu Yuang's face paled. If Lin Ling had attacked him earlier, his Ashura sword formation would have been crushed like paper. Bang, bang, bang. The crazy sword was like a fly, staring at the cracked egg and biting it madly. It was even to the extent that the vines around Thousand Lock had been chopped into pieces. Leaves fluttered in all directions, and it was in an extremely sorry state. Moreover, they saw that Qian Suo had no chance to use the yearning flower in his hand. Even they could clearly sense the depression in Qian Suo's heart. Wait, Qian Suo was indeed very depressed. He had a powerful love flower, and as long as it was stimulated, his talent would double. Unfortunately, he couldn't activate it. Wait, Lin Ling had a mocking smile on his face. Not only did the Ashura sword formation not stop, it became even crazier. He wanted to see how long this Thousand Locks could last. Stop for a moment. Thousand Locks roared as if he had been suppressed to the point of losing all reason. The martial stage was completely silent. A moment later, loud laughter rang out. Can the Battle of Pride be suspended? This was too ironic. As for Luo Xinxiang, she looked at Lin Ling in surprise. When Lin Ling defeated her, she had a feeling that Lin Ling was very, very strong. He was so strong that she could only look up to him. Even Qian Suo was not as good as him. And the facts before her eyes had proven everything. Looking at the one-sided battle, the vice deans of the three great academies all had different expressions. The faces of the people who had started the bet were also ugly. Qian Suo, just admit defeat. Otherwise, this battle will never end. Finally, the vice dean of the Tsongling Academy spoke. As he said this, his heart was filled with a bitter smile. He was the one who proposed the bet, and the one who admitted defeat was him. But what could he do? If he did not admit defeat, Lin Ling would continue to fight until Qian Suo vomited blood. Qian Suo would not be able to escape defeat sooner or later, and it was even possible that he would be seriously injured in the end. Therefore, for the sake of insurance, it was better for him to admit defeat. How could Qian Suo not know the final result? After blocking Lin Ling's attack again, he shouted unwillingly, "I admit defeat." As soon as his voice fell, the entire arena was silent. A dark horse against a dark horse. And this was the ending? This was too inconceivable. At this moment, Lin Ling waved his right hand, and the Ashura sword formation flew back and landed behind him. Then he strode away, not saying a word throughout the entire process. At this point, he did not need to say anything. Victory and defeat had proven everything. Qian Suo must have been very humiliated. After all, Qian Suo's loss could be said to be the first in the Battle of Pride. Qian Suo looked at the departing Lin Ling. His eyes were red. He was not reconciled. His hand was still holding the acacia flower, but the flower was very ironic at this moment. He looked at Luo Xinxiang, but unfortunately, the latter was looking at Lin Ling. He stood there stupidly. Finally, he vomited a mouthful of blood and fainted, becoming the most disappointing dark horse. Damn dark horse, trash, you made me lose so many divine crystals. Who proposed the bet? I really want to chop him to death. Without any suspense, what followed was a wave of resentment. On the Lotus, the vice president of the Tsongling Academy was unusually silent. His face was very gloomy. He was the one who proposed the bet, and now he had no face to see others. Unfortunately, he did not expect Lin Ling's strength to increase so much that his talent had reached the 5th grade. He was also a victim. He could even see the resentful gaze of the vice president of the Heavenly Saint Academy. Obviously, the vice president was angry at him for proposing the bet. Haha, I am indebted to you all for your divine crystals. 10 million divine crystals was actually a small amount to the vice president, but it was a big deal to gain face. Lin Ling had once again won glory for the resplendent academy. Of course, he did not expect Lin Ling's Ashura sword formation to be so strong compared to the last time. He could control it as he wished, and his sword could move as he wished. If this continued, Lin Ling would have a chance to compete for first place. The crowd who were angry because of the loss also reacted at this moment. Unknowingly, Lin Ling had already reached such a height. One must know that the 3 strongest second generations were the most eye-catching, and the 3 dark horses were also the most promising. However, Lin Ling was one of the dark horses. It could be said that in this pride tournament, the first place would be given to one of them. Therefore, this was a record to be proud of. Could Lin Ling really compete with the strongest second generation of the half-step true god realm? Lin Ling, good job. Now, our resplendent academy has 2 dark horses who have won glory for us. However, Lin Ling and Si Xuanmei will have a battle sooner or later. I wonder who will be left behind. In the past, the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy felt that Lin Ling's ability was not enough and did not have the qualifications to stand above their heads. But now, they felt that it was enough. The way they looked at Lin Ling had turned into worship. Of course, Si Xuanmei and Genji also stared deeply at Lin Ling, feeling that Lin Ling was becoming more and more mysterious. From the start of the battle until now, Lin Ling seemed to be very calm, so calm that it made them feel a little pressure. After 2 intense battles, the 4th round had finally come to an end. The 4th round was obviously the Resplendent Academy's martial stage, where Genji and Lin Ling rose. The 5th round was called the semi-finals, and the remaining geniuses were getting fewer and fewer. The elimination round was also getting more and more intense. Of course, many people felt that these 6 people were the ones who should not be provoked. They were Heavenly Saint Academy's number 1 second generation, Meng Lu, Songling Academy's Tian Kuang, Resplendent Academy's Genji, and the 3 dark horses, Si Xuanmei, He Shi, and Lin Ling. Chapter 2571. This was a clash of ultimate martial das. In the 5th round, Lin Ling quickly drew his opponent. As soon as he walked up, the second generation from the Heavenly Saint Institute smiled bitterly. He vaguely remembered that Lin Ling had once said, "If you're not convinced, come fight me." At that time, there were many voices of opposition, and he was one of them. Now the heavens had given him a chance. But how could they fight? I admit defeat. Under Lin Ling's astonishment, his opponent gloomily admitted defeat. How unlucky. I wanted to make it to the 6th round, but I fucking met the dark horse Lin Ling. That opponent lowered his head and left unwillingly. Seeing this, Lin Ling shook his head helplessly and left the stage. As they looked at the blue-robed youth, countless people felt complicated emotions. They also remembered Lin Ling's words. If they were not convinced, then come and fight. However, apart from those 5 people, who else could fight Lin Ling? The 5th round was obviously not Lin Ling's martial dais. Instead, it was the martial dais of the Songling Academy's Tian Kuang, because his opponent was the 2nd-ranked genius of the Resplendent Academy. Unfortunately, the 2nd-ranked genius was also defeated. However, the battle between the 2 of them was also extremely intense. Many cultivators nodded in satisfaction, as if they were witnessing the rise of a new star in the great Azure Divine Dynasty. The 6th round followed closely behind. Yu Yu also quickly went up on stage, causing many people to start paying attention to her. This beauty did not reveal anything, but she actually made it to the 6th round. As expected of Lin Ling's woman. Of course, she also successfully passed. When Lin Ling stepped onto the stage, his expression was very calm, but his heart was filled with boredom. This time, he wouldn't admit defeat again, right? Sure enough, he hadn't even ascended the martial platform when a voice admitting defeat drifted down. Lin Ling didn't even need to ascend the martial platform and directly entered the 7th round. However, the number of people started to dwindle, and the chances of clashing with those powerful second generations were also increasing. Si Xuanmei against He Shi. When this voice resounded through the sky, everyone's emotions reached a peak. Lin Ling's drowsy expression immediately vanished, and his eyes couldn't help but light up. Finally, a good battle. Dark horse against dark horse, who would be the king? This was also the 2nd time a dark horse was pitted against a dark horse after Lin Ling. On the martial stage, 2 dark horses appeared and faced each other from a distance. As for the geniuses of their respective academies, each and every one of them supported the dark horses of their respective academies. Even the 3 vice-deans were the same. Their faces were solemn. Junior brother He Shi greets senior sister Si. He Shi was a sincere person. First, he bowed. There's no need to speak nonsense. Let's see who's the real deal. You and I are at the same boundary, and my talent is greater than yours. But you have the ultimate Stone Dao Stoneheart. So, just erupt with your full strength. Si Xuanmei was like a fairy with a sword on her back. Her words were extremely cold. All right, I won't look down on Xuanmei senior sister. He Shi stood up straight, and a calm aura emanated from his body. I won't underestimate you either. To be able to become a dark horse, his strength should not be underestimated. So Si Xuanmei did not underestimate him. The two people's auras were on the verge of exploding, colliding like meteors. Black Rock made the first move. His figure moved like a gust of wind. Between his punches and kicks, the martial stage shook continuously. Countless leg shadows shot towards Si Xuanmei like meteors. What a powerful martial art. In just one breath, Heisher was able to unleash 3,000 types of leg techniques. On the high platform, Vice Principal Gong exclaimed in shock. Blackstone's talent was very ordinary, but his foundation was the strongest among all of them. It was impossible not to admire him. This was a battle between an ordinary genius and a prodigy. Was the talent of the heavens chosen more powerful, or was the accumulation of ordinary geniuses more powerful? Myriad Star Matchless Body. Seeing this, Si Xuanmei unleashed her rank 5 awakened godly body. As a peerless genius, she would not waste her time on weak martial arts. Hence, her foundation in martial arts was not as solid as Blackstone's. However, her strength lay in her innate talent. There were no more than 5 people in the second generation of the Resplendent Academy who possessed a 5th-grade talent. Whoosh! Whoosh! Terrifying starlight shot towards Heisher, colliding with Heisher's leg shadows, causing terrifying shockwaves to surge into the sky. The 10,000 Mammoth's unrivaled physique is a divine physique that can absorb the talent of an opponent. Whoosh! Far away from the martial stage, someone exclaimed. What a heaven-defying awakened godly body. However, Heisher's talent was very ordinary. Even if Si Xuanmei absorbed it, it would be useless. Instead, powerful martial arts became Heisher's trump card to challenge Si Xuanmei. Her talent is even more powerful than the last time. Whoosh! In the distance, Lin Ling frowned and said. Hearing this, Yu and the others started to worry, for Lin Ling Si Xuanmei had become so powerful. If Lin Ling fought with her, wouldn't it be even more troublesome? Rumble! At this moment, a rumbling sound rang out. The leg shadows and the meteors were evenly matched. However, Si Xuanmei immediately used another powerful trump card. It was the power of ice and soul power. Seeing that, Yu and the others gritted their teeth in anger. That was Yuer's talent. The combination of soul power and ice was formless and colorless. It gave people a terrifying pressure. Heisher had already sensed the terrifying soul power. His innate talent, anti-demon godly body, was also activated. He raised his palms to the sky and stood in a horse stance on the martial stage. There was a calm wind. Clang! 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 The sound of metal colliding rang out. Heisher had actually blocked the soul power attack. However, after being hit by the formless energy, his head flew back and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Heisher is indeed a dark horse. He just collided with Si Xuanmei's 10,000 mammoth peerless body, and then he immediately blocked the soul power attack. Both of them are terrifying dark horses. Many people from the 3 great academies were shocked. At least 99% of the second generation did not dare to fight with these 2 people. Even the second and third generation of the second generation in the past had a serious expression on their faces. It was undeniable that these 2 people's strength was not weaker than theirs. After being injured, Heisher's aura did not decrease. Instead, it became stronger. He leaped up with his right hand behind his back. Looking at Si Xuanmei on the martial stage, he punched out. The fist energy exploded and could break a world. That punch was like a cannonball smashing down. It created a circular shockwave in the air. Unstoppable. That punch also represented the fist intent. It was unstoppable. At that moment, the geniuses around the martial stage were shocked by that punch. They felt as if they saw a huge palm forcing them to kneel. In fact, Si Xuanmei felt it even more. Her expression was serious. She finally drew her sword. Clang! She unsheathed her sword. The sword's body was like a crystal. A second-grade immortal treasure. That's the sword of Immortal Plum Sword, one of the top 10 sword immortals in Qingzhou. Magnificent Sky Divine Sword. This sword has the second-grade chaotic force. Although Si Xuanmei can't control it, she can still use almost 10% of her sword heart. The 3 vice deans could not help but stand up. That sword was very famous. It was the symbol of the top 10 sword immortals in Qingzhou. Now that it was in Si Xuanmei's possession, it seemed like Si Xuanmei had prepared a lot for first place. Sword Heart. Seeing this scene, the crowd could not help but gasp. Chapter 2572. 3/4 of the Immortal Sword. At this moment, the sword was sparkling and translucent, but a quarter of it had turned white. Xuanmei raised the sword and pointed it forward. In the sky, the huge shadow fist paused for a moment before exploding. Strong winds swept out like a tornado. Broken. She broke that fist with one sword. That sword strike was so breathtaking that many people were incomparably shocked. As expected of senior sister Xuanmei. She's stronger than I imagined. However, I won't lose so easily. More blood flowed out from the corner of He Shi's mouth, but his fighting spirit surged as he threw out a second punch. Nothing can't be destroyed. This punch was even more domineering, as if it could break mountains and rivers. You're still going to lose. Unfortunately, after Xuanmei threw out her sword, she became even more arrogant. She was like a sword that was isolated from the world and wanted to sweep through the 9 provinces. 2/4 of the sword in her hand had turned white. She swung her sword horizontally. Clang! At this moment, all the martial artists around the martial arts platform had their swords broken. Obviously, all the swords in the surroundings had been broken. Boom! 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 The huge shadow fist was broken again, causing He Shi's expression to change drastically. On the other hand, Lin Ling shook his head instead. He knew that He Shi had lost because he was utterly unable to resist Xuanmei's sword. If the battle continued, then He Shi would definitely be injured. It was even to the extent that if Xuanmei was a little more ruthless, then He Shi would probably be crippled. However, Lin Ling's worries were useless because He Shi wasn't someone who would admit defeat easily. He attacked again. Third move, nothing can't break. The entire sky was filled with He Shi's roar. He turned into a fist, wanting to destroy everything. A gigantic black fist smashed into the ground, destroying everything in its path. That punch had actually caused the face of the second-ranked genius of the second generation to turn ashen. They couldn't take that punch because it was He Shi Xian. This meant that He Shi was definitely the second generation of the third generation in the 3 great academies. Stubborn. Sensing He Shi's resolute will, Xuanmei snorted and raised her sword. The surroundings quieted down, as if the wind and clouds were frozen. Suddenly, sword intent shot up from the ground. It was Jinshin. Xuanmei's sword had already turned 3/4 white, and she ruthlessly slashed out. A streak of sword light slashed through the sky with the speed of 2 realms. At this moment, countless people were nervous. Stone heart against sword heart. This was a clash of ultimate martial das. Was it the rock that was stable? Or was the sword sharper? This seemed to be a battle between a spear and a shield. Boom! A deafening sound rang out, and a strong light burst forth. Then the world fell silent. At the same time, a figure sheathed his sword and slowly left the martial stage. It was a figure in a snow-white robe, like a fairy. It was Xuanmei. Drip! At the same time, the sound of blood dripping could be heard. On the martial stage, He Shi stood there with a pale face. His left hand was touching his right arm. His right arm had been cut off and was bleeding. How ruthless. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Then their eyes flickered continuously. Blackstone's arm had been severed by a single strike of the sword, and as a result, Blackstone's ultimate path of stone would definitely be reduced greatly. So, it would be impossible for him to utilize the Stoneheart technique again. This meant that he was also destroyed. In this clash of dark horses, Blackstone had been defeated. What a pity. This was originally a very good inspirational story. Unfortunately, a diligent genius can't compare to a genius with great natural talent. Yeah, Xuanmei even has an immortal treasure. Her sword heart must have surpassed the first level of chaotic energy. Some ancient experts sighed and shook their heads, feeling pity for Blackstone. Blackstone held his severed arm and left the martial stage step by step. At this moment, he had fallen from the divine stage and become an ordinary person again. Blackstone, trash. You actually embarrassed our academy. I thought highly of you, but you've disappointed me in the end. After being defeated, a large number of angry curses drifted out. Blackstone had stood above many geniuses, making them look up to him and worship him. Now that he had fallen, they naturally hit him while he was down. Stepping on a dark horse felt pretty good. Blackstone gritted his teeth when he heard this, and he didn't say a word. It was as if the curses around him were more painful than losing his right arm. Moreover, his will to fight had obviously withered, and it was likely that this would be the end of his life. However, when he came to a corner and was about to silently lick his wound, a cold laugh sounded out. "You're so weak? How dare trash like you challenge me?" This made him raise his head, and he was shocked to find that it was Lin Ling who had spoken. Lin Ling was looking down on him. "I'm already a cripple. If you want to laugh, laugh all you want." Blackstone smiled bitterly and shook his head. "You're indeed trash. I've been waiting for you to challenge me, but after you lost your will to fight and your martial heart. It seems that you've thought too highly of yourself. You seem to have forgotten that you originally had nothing, and now you have nothing. What's the big deal?" Lin Ling's disdainful voice sounded again. Boom. However, this sentence made Blackstone's heart roar. Then he stared at Lin Ling in the distance. He was not a genius, but he had accumulated a lot of experience. He had cultivated diligently and painstakingly, so from the beginning, he had nothing. If the Pride tournament had not made him a dark horse, he would still be a passerby. Since he had nothing, then he had nothing to lose now, so what was the big deal? Since he could go from nothing to a dark horse, then he could make a comeback in the future. His eyes instantly lit up. The lost will and fighting spirit gradually boiled over. What? Look at Blackstone. Some people noticed Blackstone's high fighting spirit, and they exclaimed. He had just fallen off the altar, but he stood up again. This was not something that anyone could do. "I will fight you, Senior Lin Ling." Blackstone looked at Lin Ling and said respectfully. Lin Ling smiled faintly and did not say anything. He seemed to be mocking Blackstone, but in fact, he was also giving Blackstone pointers. He wanted Blackstone to accept his defeat. What an interesting guy. With just a few words, he restored Blackstone's fighting spirit. This Lin Ling is not simple. He can see through people's nature. No one knew about Lin Ling's previous actions, but the Imperial censor saw it and could not help but smile deeply. There were no more exciting battles in this round, and the 8th round followed closely. As the number of people decreased, the number of exciting battles increased. Number 1, without a doubt, only 5 people were born. But the top 10 rewards were not bad, so the others fought hard for it. The 8th round was very ordinary, so the 9th round came quickly. There were only a few dozen people left. This meant that the chances of meeting the strongest second generation were much higher. Of course, meeting Si Xuanmei and Lin Ling was something that the second generation did not want. Especially Si Xuanmei, and Lin Ling was ranked after her. Who would have thought that this guy would make it to the end? Genji looked coldly at Lin Ling, a sinister smile on his face. He hoped that Lin Ling would not meet him too early. Otherwise, Lin Ling would definitely regret it. Not long after the 9th round began, it was Lin Ling's turn to draw lots. Chapter 2573. A showdown between the strongest swordsmen. Lin Ling has always encountered weak second generations. I wonder who he will encounter this time. If I meet the 3 strongest second generation heirs, it'll be interesting to watch. Yeah, now there's only one dark horse left. Lin Ling will definitely be eliminated. Many people were looking forward to it. Even the 3 vice deans had solemn gazes. They had a feeling that Lin Ling's opponent this time was definitely not simple. This was indeed the case. When Lin Ling's opponent appeared, the heavens and earth fell silent. It was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. This was because Lin Ling's opponent was Si Xuanmei. This was the competition for the king of dark horses. Who was the number 1 dark horse? Boom. Cheers immediately burst out from all around the martial stage. Si Xuanmei was the former number 1 rookie of the second generation. Her rise was like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. She was the senior sister of countless second-generation disciples. Moreover, she had a 5th-grade talent, and with an immortal sword in hand, she could erupt with sword heart. Her strength was enough to contend for the number 1 position in the world. Lin Ling, on the other hand, was the genius with the fastest cultivation speed in the history of the Resplendent Academy. In the Pride tournament, he had defeated all his opponents and was not to be underestimated. At this moment, no one knew who would be able to stay behind. On the martial stage, Lin Ling and Si Xuanmei were already there. They looked at each other in silence. Everyone knew about the grudges between the 2 of them, and it wasn't something that could be explained with just a few words. Both of them wanted the other dead. Lin Ling did it for Annuer, while Si Xuanmei did it to wash away her shame. I believe that only one person can leave this battle alive. Finally, Si Xuanmei opened her mouth. Her fine black hair danced in the wind, and her white clothes were purer than snow. If not for the fact that her words were too heartless, She would definitely be a devastatingly beautiful woman. Although they knew about the grudge between the two of them, they did not expect Si Xuanmei to be so ruthless. This made many people feel like cicadas in winter. As expected, after Si Xuanmei's rise, she had to get rid of one dark horse after another. Before, it was He Shi. Now, it was Lin Ling. Lin Ling, be careful of Si Xuanmei. Far away from the martial stage, Blackstone clenched his left fist and looked at the martial stage worriedly. He knew that when Si Xuanmei fought with him earlier, she did not use her full strength at all. That sword only transformed 3/4 of its original form. I approve. At this moment, before Lin Ling could say anything, a woman in her 40s spoke. She was the immortal plum sword, Si Xuanmei's master. She knew that if Lin Ling did not die, her disciple would not be able to resolve the knot in her heart. Therefore, she could only sacrifice Lin Ling to the sword. If she could surpass Lin Ling, her disciple would definitely soar into the sky and become famous in the great Azure Divine Dynasty. What do you mean you approve? Don't tell me you're going to fight? A voice suddenly rang out. It was none other than Red Jade Tiger from the martial god camp. Naturally, he was supporting Lin Ling, so he mocked, Qing Prefecture's 10 great sword immortals? Hee, you're one of the top 10 shrews. Haha. Hearing that voice, many people couldn't help but laugh. Sword immortals were ethereal like immortals, but now they were as vicious as snakes and scorpions. How dare they call themselves sword immortals? Humph. The immortal plum sword snorted coldly. Her high cheekbones made her look extremely mean. In fact, even if you didn't speak, I would speak. Since that's the case, then I agree. At the same time, Lin Ling spoke himself. I knew you would agree. Si Xuanmei was not surprised by Lin Ling's answer. She drew her sword directly, and a cold and merciless aura filled the air. However, she only held her sword and did not attack. However, the people around the martial arts platform immediately felt a terrifying pressure surging out. The rolling pressure began to attack Lin Ling. Could it be that Si Xuanmei plans to use her sword from the start when facing Lin Ling? They've fought before and are familiar with each other's strength. Therefore, sometimes the simpler the better. This is a clash of swords. Many people said solemnly. The clash of swordsmen was as proud as snow. One moment, it could be calm and peaceful, but the next moment, it could be earth-shattering. This was also the specialty of swordsmen. Because of this, no one dared to underestimate swordsmen. The rolling pressure assaulted Lin Ling, making him feel as if his entire body was being cut by knives. He knew that Si Xuanmei planned to kill him with one strike. What a ruthless method, without any mercy. And Si Xuanmei had the sword heart, so she could erupt with the first level of chaotic force. Her sword was indeed terrifying. Most importantly, Lin Ling sensed that Si Xuanmei, other than that sword, had also cultivated a powerful sword technique. The combination of the two gave Si Xuanmei the confidence. Clang! Thinking of this, Lin Ling also attacked. He knew that he had to erupt with 70% of his strength. With the broad ancient sword in his hand, numerous black swords flew out. The Shura sword formation had arrived. The Shura Qi immediately resisted Si Xuanmei's immortal sword. It was like a clash between a devil and an immortal. Shura sword formation, a 5th grade boundary origin martial art. Unfortunately, you've only cultivated 49 swords. You've only scratched the surface. Staring calmly at the sword above Lin Ling's head, Si Xuanmei said confidently. The sword in her hand also began to change. The white color had spread to 2/4. The powerful aura collided with the Shura sword formation. Instantly, the Shura sword formation swayed, as if it was being blown by a strong wind. Lin Ling, and Yuer was killed by me. I know you hate me. Unfortunately, what can you do to me? Sensing that Lin Ling's aura had weakened, Si Xuanmei said calmly. She actually used words to provoke Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling was not moved. Instead, the swaying Shura sword formation once again rose up and floated around him. At this moment, his entire body was burning with flames. A shocking change had been triggered. His cultivation level was no weaker than Si Xuanmei's. Everyone could see that Lin Ling had erupted with all his trump cards. It was the Shura sword formation and the path of fire. Brother Ling, you can do it. Yu Yu and Xian Yuan Geber secretly clenched their fists. Lin Ling would definitely not lose this battle for Sister Yu. Lin Ling's strength should be able to fight against a half-step true immortal. Unfortunately, he's still too weak against the ultimate sword Dao's sword heart. Far away from the stage, among the strongest second generation, someone said calmly. Currently, Lin Ling could only fight Si Xuanmei to a draw. The premise was that Si Xuanmei did not use her sword heart. As expected, Si Xuanmei's cold smile deepened. Her sword changed again. The white color had spread to 3/4 of the sword. This sword had cut off Heisher's arm. There was no doubt about its power. Is that all? Si Xuanmei even questioned. Her words were mixed with the pride of a swordsman. At the same time, Lin Ling's footsteps seemed to be blown by a strong wind as he quietly took a step back. He's lost. He's definitely lost. Lin Ling is inferior to Si Xuanmei in terms of the aura of a swordsman. That small action immediately made many people shake their heads. Even the 3 vice presidents were the same. Vice President Gong sighed softly. Si Xuanmei and Lin Ling were both dark horses. Unfortunately, a mountain could not hide 2 tigers. Lin Ling could only be eliminated. Regarding this, there was nothing he could do. Is that all? However, Si Xuanmei's strength was not limited to that. Instead, it became sharper and sharper. It was as if her sword was soaring into the sky. Her sword was trembling, as if it was activating an uncontrollable power. Her long hair also danced wildly at this moment. How terrifying. Si Xuanmei has turned into a sword. Moreover, she's a sword immortal. Chapter 2574. A Clash of Swords. Look, her sword is starting to turn completely white. Is the final sword coming out? Even more people were looking forward to seeing how stunning the final sword attack would be. When he defeated He Shi, the immortal sword had only transformed 3/4 of its original form. If it transformed completely, it would definitely be a sword heart that surpassed the first level of primal chaos. Rumble. Cracks began to appear on the martial platform, as if it had been slashed out by countless swords. One had to know that the martial platform had always been there, but no matter how powerful the attacks were, the martial platform was still safe and sound. And now, cracks had appeared on the martial platform. Even the universal flow king stone was left with a sword scar. How terrifying. That sword might have been able to sever 10 realms. Even the number 1 heavens fanatic of the second generation, who had been silent all this time, frowned. As expected, the strength of someone who could be called a dark horse was not to be underestimated. Looking at Lin Ling again, his body was even more unstable, as if he would be pushed back at any time. However, the Shura sword formation also charged forward, and all the swords were aimed at Si Xuanmei. The sword's willpower was also roaring. It was like the Azura Demon King, unafraid of the immortal sword. Without Si Xuanmei, Lin Ling would definitely be the strongest swordsman in the Pride tournament. Unfortunately, Lin Ling is weaker than the strongest swordsman. Vice Principal Gong muttered to himself. The Ashura sword formation, a 5th-grade sword technique, was indeed not to be underestimated. Many people nodded. It seemed like Lin Ling had lost in the confrontation between the strongest swordsmen. Is that all? Si Xuanmei still said the same sentence. Her clothes fluttered. Her jade-like hand held the immortal sword, and it looked like a light slash. She had finally drawn her sword. When she and Lin Ling clashed, she didn't need any moves at all. All she needed was a single sword strike. This sword is even stronger than the one that defeated me before. The moment the sword appeared, Black Rock's face immediately revealed a look of worry. He was once again shocked by the sword. In fact, many people were shocked by Si Xuanmei's sword. When the sword came out, the universe moved. It possessed the might to slay 10 realms with a single sword strike. The speed of the sword light had also reached the speed of 2 realms. Even if Lin Ling wanted to dodge, it was clearly impossible. However, Lin Ling had never thought of avoiding it. Even if the pressure from those swords made his body feel like it was being cut by knives, making his steps unsteady, he still controlled the Azura sword and charged forward. For an Yuer, Lin Ling attack. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sky was filled with sword shadows. Lin Ling also slashed out once, but it was separated into 49 swords. Everyone held their breaths when they saw this. Had the battle between the strongest swordsmen begun? It's useless. Far away, the immortal plum sword was the first to let out a cold laugh. Sure enough, Si Xuanmei's sword seemed to be able to cut through everything, and it had the power to move unhindered in the universe. Ka. Lin Ling's Ashura sword formation was completely severed, and this was a terrifying thing. One must know that Lin Ling's previous sword formation was unstoppable. Just one. 2, 10, 20. Gradually there were 40, and even 41, 42. Lin Ling's powerful trump card was slowly being destroyed at this moment. People could almost see Lin Ling being split into two halves. Especially the warriors from Tating Commandery and Wofi Commandery. They were extremely excited. Some even planned to pick up Lin Ling's head after Lin Ling's death. Moreover, many people were shouting, 43, 44. Brother Ling. As for Yu Yu and Xian Yuan Gober, they could not help but shout. Immortal Plum Sword sneered and said to herself, Mayor, your humiliation is about to be washed away. For this day, you have sacrificed a lot. In fact, Si Xuanmei also thought so. She was very happy, and she wanted to roar to the sky. She wanted to laugh proudly. Her humiliation was washed away. She was the #1 rookie of the second generation. She was the king of the dark horses and the strongest swordsman. Boom. When the 47th Shura sword was completely destroyed, Vice President Gong sighed softly. Lin Ling was defeated. However, how could the last sword be as weak as everyone thought? Boom. A sudden change occurred. One sword to break 10 worlds. When the sword fell, even the immortal sword was about to be broken. It was enough to shock Qingzhou. Sword Heart. Vice President Gong was still shaking his head, but he suddenly stood up with his eyes fixed on the sword. The crowd also opened their mouths wide. They saw Si Xuanmei's sword being cut down by the sword in the sky. It broke into pieces inch by inch and turned into sparkling fragments. The black sword was like the sword of the Demon King, and it still slashed down. Boom. At this moment, the entire martial platform was cut into two, as if it was punched down by someone. It should be known that the martial platform's hardness was comparable to that of 10 worlds. Therefore, this was the first genius to break a martial platform in the Pride Tournament. As for Si Xuanmei, she held the immortal sword and stared ahead. The martial platform that was cut into two was actually cut with her at the center. Under countless shocked gazes, the blue-robed young man stepped forward, holding the ancient sword diagonally. The tip of the sword turned into the void, and bright sparks filled the air. You think you can defeat me? Unfortunately, no matter how strong you become, you escaped from me in the past, so you will always be my defeated opponent. Cold. The young man's cold voice floated out from his mouth. Sword Heart. You actually have a sword heart. Si Xuanmei's eyes widened. Her sword heart had not reached the first level of the chaotic force. She had relied on the immortal sword in her hand to barely reach it. However, Lin Ling's sword heart was comprehended by himself. It was at the same level as hers, but it was obviously stronger than hers. I can't accept this. Roar. Si Xuanmei roared angrily. And Yuer was even more unwilling. Roar. Lin Ling stopped and slashed out with his sword, cold and emotionless. Whoosh. A sword mark appeared on Si Xuanmei's neck. It was a deep sword mark. She firmly stroked the sword mark, and her eyes were filled with anger. Lin Ling, kill me. Without Lin Ling, she would definitely be the #1 monster in the history of the Resplendent Academy. Without Lin Ling, she would have a glorious future. Unfortunately, she caused Yuer's death, and in the end, all of this became a dream. Even in her dreams, she would never have thought that her junior sister's man would be so terrifying. Junior sister, you have a good man. Plop. Her head fell down, and she died with her eyes wide open. The dark horse, Si Xuanmei, was defeated. The #1 dark horse was born, the strongest swordsman, Lin Ling. Looking at Lin Ling, who was leaving the stage step by step, the crowd was silent. Although they knew that Lin Ling was a dark horse, and that his strength was not weak, when Lin Ling erupted with his sword heart, they knew that Lin Ling's strength was so terrifying. Especially that last sword strike. It could be said to be the sharpest sword strike of a swordsman. Sword Heart. This guy is the third genius in the Pride Tournament, who has mastered the ultimate sword Dao and has reached the true realm of Dao. Is this his trump card? He's really the king of the dark horses. Even the 3 strongest second generations let out sounds of surprise and began to pay attention to Lin Ling. In the 3 academies, the geniuses of the Sword Dao department looked at Lin Ling with admiration. Of course, there were also many people who stared at the severed stage. Chapter 2575. The semifinals had arrived. This guy is actually so strong. Heisher smiled excitedly. He was happy for Lin Ling and proud for Lin Ling. Heisher couldn't defeat his opponent, but Lin Ling had defeated him. The strongest dark horse has been born. In this proud world competition, Only 4 people have the qualifications to be proud of the world. On the huge Lotus platform, the censor couldn't help but laugh. The person who could be called a dark horse was indeed someone who could create miracles. He was looking forward to seeing who would be the next world-defying. After Lin Ling's stunning battle, the following battles were clearly overshadowed. In this battle, Lin Ling had undoubtedly alarmed the 3 great academies and entered the top 5 of the second generation. Brother Ling. After Lin Ling returned, Yu Yu and the others immediately rushed forward and hugged Lin Ling. Previously, they were worried to death. Although they knew that Lin Ling was very strong, they really didn't know if Lin Ling could win against Si Xuanmei, who had Sword Heart. In the sacred land of the rainforest, I have weathered many storms and waves. How can I, Lin Ling, lose to a loser? Lin Ling immediately said with a smile when he sensed his 2 wives' worries. We know that Brother Ling is the best, but we were still very worried before. Yu Yu raised her head, her eyes filled with tears. Every time she saw Lin Ling fighting a life-and-death battle, she wished she could fight in place of Lin Ling. She knew that Lin Ling was seeking justice for Anywhere. Lin Ling had always protected them, making them feel touched and guilty. How could I not think the same when you guys are participating in the competition? Lin Ling looked deeply at Yu Yu and Xian Yuan Gober, then smiled gently. Killing Si Xuanmei could be considered as fulfilling one of his wishes. You didn't die last time, and you still dared to be so arrogant this time? Do you really think that you don't have to die? And this time, no one would dare to step forward. The Pride tournament had finally entered the semifinals. Dreamflow versus Li Erniu? I admit defeat. Lin Ling versus Wang Sanbang? Don't call my name, I admit defeat. Fuck, I actually met Lin Ling. Without any suspense, as long as the 4 people fought, their opponents would all admit defeat. Of course, there were also those who didn't believe in heresy. They believed that the strongest 4 were indeed tigers, but even tigers had times when they dozed off. For example, the person that Lin Ling met did not admit defeat, which made Lin Ling interested. Although the opponent's strength was not bad, it was not enough to enter Lin Ling's eyes. However, when Lin Ling touched his chin, that person immediately ran out of the martial stage like a frightened bird. It seemed that if he had been 1 step slower, he would have fainted from fright. Just like that, the 4 of them began to gradually draw closer to each other. The strongest world pride also quietly arrived. Countless people stared at the 4 most dazzling people, waiting to see who would be the Pride tournament. Dream Flow, Sky Saint Institute's strongest second generation. His origin was a mystery, and so was his strength. Rumor had it that he could fight against a true god. Tian Kuang, Songling Academy's strongest second generation. His strongest point was his speed. He had not experienced any tough battles since the Pride tournament, but he was worshipped by many. Genji, Resplendent Academy's strongest second generation. Invincible in the dark, he could raise his cultivation by a large margin. Lin Ling, the king of the dark horses, was the monster with the fastest cultivation speed in the history of the Resplendent Academy. Compared to the seniors before him, he had encountered many tough battles, but with an unstoppable winning streak, he rushed straight to the semifinals. Of course, compared to the previous 3 seniors, Lin Ling's foundation was still weaker. Many people estimated that Lin Ling was ranked 4th, which was the final limit. Of course, even so, this was an achievement that would spread through the world. Lin Ling is so handsome. I think he's the most handsome among the 4 strongest second generation. Yeah, Tian Kuang is too violent, Meng Lu is too strange, Genji is too ugly, Lin Ling is a swordsman, and he's the most elegant. Bullshit, I like Meng Lu. I think his sleepy look is very attractive. The semifinals had not yet begun, but many girls were already admiring him. Brother Ling, look at you flirting with girls again. Yu could not help but complain when she heard those voices. Lin Ling shook his head gloomily. He was flirting with girls? He felt wronged. However, he also looked at the 3 strongest second generation. He ignored Genji because he knew that if he used his full strength, Genji could only be trampled under his feet. Meng Lu was the only one he could not see through. That guy's background is not small. At this moment, Thousand Chances Queen's voice suddenly sounded, which made Lin Ling curious. He has the aura of one of the 9 prefecture's 10 evils, the Tomb Guardian tribe. Thousand Chances Queen said solemnly. 9 prefectures 10 evils? Lin Ling's expression changed. He knew that the 9 prefectures 10 evils were the Creator Alliance and the Immortal Temple. Now, there was another one, the Tomb Guardian tribe. the tribe that guards the ancient god's mausoleum. This tribe also drifts in the universe. No one knows where they came from, but the things they have are extremely mysterious. 1,000 chances, Queen said. Looks like he's my only opponent in this pride tournament. Lin Ling mumbled to himself. He was determined to get the disaster-releasing pill, which was the first prize of the pride tournament. Therefore, it was inevitable that he would clash with Meng Lu. Of course, he was looking forward to it. Currently, he was not afraid of a half-step true god, but he had not fought a true god before. He hoped that Meng Lu would not disappoint him. While he was quietly waiting, the drawing of lots had begun. The first battle, Lin Ling against Gung Lu. Gung Lu, peak world king, 5th grade talent. Moreover, he was a genius that could display his talent to the limit. He had also fought before, and with his talent, he was able to raise his realm by 40%. Lin Ling, 9th stage world king. To be honest, this was the lowest realm in the Pride tournament. However, his strength could not be measured by his realm. All of his trump cards were incomparably powerful. Of course, between the two, everyone favored Gung Lu. Lin Ling could raise his realm, but so could Gung Lu. Gung Lu had more. Lin Ling had the sword heart, but Gung Lu had the talent. If Lin Ling's sword could not hit Gung Lu, then everything would be an illusion. Haha, Vice President Gong, your resplendent academy is very unlucky. The two strongest second-generation talents are facing each other. Looking at the results of the lot drawing, the two vice presidents of the Heavenly Saint Academy were very happy. Originally, if Lin Ling and Gung Lu were to challenge different opponents, then Resplendent Academy would have a high chance of winning first place. Unfortunately, the heavens did not follow their wishes. Humph, ever since the Pride tournament began, our Resplendent Academy's luck has always been bad. Vice President Gong said unwillingly. Lin Ling had eliminated Si Xuanmei, and now Gung Lu had eliminated Lin Ling. How could their luck not be bad? What a joke. Even if they enter the finals, do you think they will be a match for Meng Lu and Heavenly Crazed? This is the heavens allowing your Resplendent Academy to see clearly. You should choose to leave one person behind. Songling Academy's vice president laughed. Vice President Gong also looked at the stage. That's right. Between Lin Ling and Gung Lu, Resplendent Academy had to leave one person behind to fight for the finals. After all, the two of them were not weak. If either of them was injured, it would be detrimental to the finals. Chapter 2576. In the Dictionary of Life, there was no such thing as admitting defeat. AI, the palm is flesh, the back of the hand is also flesh. Vice Principal Gong sighed. Without a doubt, the one remaining was Genji. The one admitting defeat was Lin Ling. After which, he sent out the news, causing Resplendent Academy to shout. Lin Ling, admit defeat. Don't waste senior brother Genji's Jie Yuan. He needs to be in his best condition for the finals. Yes. That's right, Lin Ling. You are not senior brother Genji's match. Yes. Lin Ling, for you to be able to come this far, we all admire you. But one must know one's limits. You will not be able to enter the finals. Yes. Although Resplendent Academy's geniuses all worshipped Lin Ling, they also felt that Genji was stronger. Voices sounded out, causing Lin Ling to frown. He wanted to admit defeat. Opposite him, Genji was already standing there, hands behind his back, his face filled with pride and arrogance. Lin Ling was the king of the dark horses, but now even he had to give way to him. Although he agreed to fight with Lin Ling, but once Lin Ling admitted defeat, it was the same as losing to him. Winning without a fight, this was not bad at all. He might even be able to suppress Lin Ling until he lost all will to fight. I refuse. Yes. However, just as Genji was having all sorts of thoughts, Lin Ling spoke slowly. You're so confident? Gage said with an evil smile. Have you ever seen a fighter not confident in himself? Lin Ling retorted, causing Genji to be speechless. AI, Lin Ling, I know you are unwilling, but everything has a priority. Genji is the second generation's number one, representing Resplendent Academy. He is your senior brother. No matter what, you have to give way to him. On top of the huge lotus, Vice Principal Gong advised Lin Ling. He didn't have any opinions about Lin Ling. On the contrary, he valued Lin Ling a lot. Unfortunately, for the sake of Resplendent Academy, Lin Ling had to give way. Senior brother Lin Ling, we know that it wasn't easy for you to win all the way to the semifinals, but for the sake of Resplendent Academy, you should admit defeat. Resplendent Academy will definitely reward you. Many geniuses from the Resplendent Academy also voiced their dissatisfaction. Lin Ling actually refused to admit defeat. Wasn't he being too tactless? Humph, the vice president personally asked for it. You Lin Ling are too arrogant. Can you compare to Genji? You can't even compare to a single strand of his hair. The others were still polite, but there was one person whose words were extremely unpleasant. Everyone immediately looked over and found that the one who spoke was a hunchbacked old man, and beside him stood a delicate woman. Xia Ren and Lu Hongyan? Falling flowers, flowing water soared, and the others narrowed their eyes. In the past, Xia Ren wanted to seize Lin Ling's market. He had his disciple Lu Hongyan compete with Lin Ling in terms of pills, but in the end, Lin Ling won. Xia Ren was also a former first generation of Resplendent Academy. He had the qualifications to speak. That old fart. Xian Yuangur cursed. That old fart was obviously adding insult to injury. Lin Ling, get down here. On the Resplendent Academy's side, a few geniuses wanted to flatter Xia Ren, so their words were even more impolite. Truly an unappreciative fellow. He thinks he's very strong, but in reality, he's just trash. Lin Ling's heart is too vicious. He knows he can't get first place, so he wants to drag senior brother Genji down and waste his energy. If that's the case, our Resplendent Academy will be ranked last. Quickly admit defeat. More and more people began to yell. The other two academies were watching the show, but they also thought that Lin Ling should admit defeat. Voices rang out, making Yu and the others feel indignant for Lin Ling. Lin Ling relied on himself and walked step by step to the semifinals. But in the end, Resplendent Academy did not even give Lin Ling a chance. This was too unfair to Lin Ling. Could it be that Genji would definitely be able to get first place, but Lin Ling couldn't? Seeing Resplendent Academy's decision, the experts from the 6 camps frowned. This Lin Ling's luck was really bad. Although he had soared to the skies, he had been overshadowed by Genji. He had to give way to Genji. This is an insult to Lin Ling. Our martial god camp's people. Even if our strength is inferior, we will not admit defeat so easily. Qiyu clenched his fists in anger. In the end, this is a pride tournament between the 3 academies, so it's also Resplendent Academy's matter. Martial God Camp can't interfere. 8th Jew Lord said. Hearing the support, Genji smiled. Lin Ling, are you still not going to admit defeat? In terms of cultivation, you're weaker than me. In terms of talent, you're also weaker than me. I don't know why you still have the face to stay here. At this moment, he seemed to be looking down on Lin Ling from a high position. Furthermore, Lin Ling was the king of the dark horses, but even the king of the dark horses had to give way to him. This showed how powerful he was. Lin Ling was simply his stepping stone. In the days to come, Qing Zhou would definitely spread the story that the king of the dark horses, Lin Ling, gave way to the 2nd generation Genji. Not bad at all. In my dictionary, there's no such thing as admitting defeat. But just as Genji thought that Lin Ling would be forced to leave under the pressure, Lin Ling's firm voice rang out. What, this guy's skin is too thick. I used to admire him, but now, I feel that he's too selfish. Admit defeat. Hearing this, many of the Resplendent Academy's geniuses couldn't help but curse. Vice President Gong's pupils constricted as anger rose in his heart. Because Lin Ling didn't admit defeat, that was throwing his face. I would like to ask Vice President, why should I admit defeat? However, before Vice President Gong could speak, Lin Ling looked over. His eyes were clear and clean. He didn't seem to know the reason why he admitted defeat. At this moment, the crowd's anger boiled. Wasn't this nonsense? Lin Ling wasn't Genji's opponent. If he didn't admit defeat, it would only waste Genji's energy. AI! Vice President Gong was originally angry, but looking at Lin Ling's clear eyes, his anger dissipated. In Lin Ling's eyes, he saw persistence and determination. Just as he was about to speak, Lin Ling had already pulled out his sword. If I lose, I'll leave Qing Zhou. Hung. His voice was like a declaration, causing countless people's faces to freeze. Qing Zhou, this was the place that all the world's martial artists yearned for. This represented the affirmation of martial arts. However, if Lin Ling lost, he would leave Qing Zhou. This also meant that Lin Ling would no longer practice martial arts. At this moment, no one spoke. They were all shocked by Lin Ling's courage. Even the 2 strongest 2nd generation geniuses were the same. Moreover, they couldn't understand why Lin Ling would gamble on martial arts just to not admit defeat. Was it worth it? This was a battle without any suspense at all. As for Vice President Gong, he opened his mouth and sighed. He was suddenly disappointed in Lin Ling. Good. The battle that we agreed upon must be carried out even if the sky falls and the earth rends. Lin Ling, my impression of you has changed. On the stage, Genji suddenly laughed out loud. His body was covered in black light, like tentacles. At this moment, he was so black that it was dazzling. However, the crowd was only shocked, not terrified. Chapter 2577. There was no miracle. I, Genji, came from the southern border and used only 100 years to defeat countless experts. 500 years to dominate the southern border, 600 years to become the lord of 1,000 realms, 700 years to enter the resplendent academy, 300 years to become the second generation, and 50 years to become the first. My talent soared, and when I reached the 5th grade, I felt that I was invincible. I could defeat 80% of the half-step true God realm experts. I don't know why you won't admit defeat, but I know that if you want to continue, the price will be your life's worth of martial arts. Following Genji's words, the entire arena was in an uproar. It seemed like Genji's cultivation was not even enough for 1,500 years. The most terrifying thing was that he used 50 years to become the second generation's first. Moreover, according to the crowd's estimation, Genji could defeat 70% of the half-step true God realm experts. But the reality was that he could defeat 80%. This was close to being invincible among the half-step true God realm experts. You've only defeated a bunch of weaklings. Lin Ling was not moved by Genji's words. He slowly pulled out his sword and pointed it at Genji. Facing you, I don't even need to use 50% of my strength. The punch you gave me in the past, today, I will return it to you 100 times. Genji laughed coldly, and the black fog around his body began to spread. He began to make his move. Moreover, he did not intend to prolong the battle. He wanted to defeat Lin Ling cleanly and make Lin Ling leave Green State forever. The first and second generation of the Resplendent Academy are going to clash. I'm looking forward to it, but I feel that it will be hard for Lin Ling to win. He can't win at all. Although they knew that Lin Ling would lose without a doubt, the crowd was still looking forward to this battle. Facing Genji's heaven-defying talent, how would Lin Ling deal with him? Evil light secret body, a 5th grade awakened godly body, but it is the strongest among the 5th grade talents. Lin Ling's heart of the sword can cut through the darkness. Facing this kind of talent, unless one has the cultivation of the true God realm, everything else is like paper. The other 2 vice deans said indifferently. They were even more pessimistic about Lin Ling. No way. Lin Ling is actually not doing anything? Right at this moment, someone exclaimed. This was because Lin Ling was standing on the stage, allowing the darkness to invade him. Being invaded by the darkness meant that he would lose without a doubt. Was Lin Ling stupid? Could it be that he was so stubborn about wanting to fight because he wanted to lose beautifully? Even Vice President Gong's eyes narrowed. Then, he became even more disappointed. The terrifying darkness enveloped Lin Ling without any suspense. At this moment, in the endless darkness, Lin Ling stood there indifferently, his face as calm as an ancient well. Genji's talent was indeed terrifying, but there were exceptions to everything. For example, against a true god, his heaven-defying talent was useless. It was also because sometimes powerful strength could overturn everything. Last time, you were lucky enough to escape. That was because Ancestor Dragon Granny came, and I took the initiative to withdraw my innate gift. Otherwise, do you think you would have been able to punch me? Now, take a look at the terror of my darkness. Let me tell you, Lin Ling, unless you kneel down, you will never walk out of this darkness. Come and fight, Lin Ling. In the endless darkness, a voice filled with disdain floated out. Genji was like the king of darkness, dominating everything. In his darkness, everyone's life and death was under his control. This was Resplendent Academy's strongest second generation. Relying on your innate gift won't allow you to go far. Genji, if you think you can rely on your innate gift to defeat all the second generations, then your end will only be the second generation. Lin Ling stared ahead and slowly opened his mouth. The 2 dantians in his body were currently fusing together. Can you only say such words to show off? Let me tell you, no one has ever walked out of my darkness. Laughter once again floated out. Genji only had disdain for Lin Ling. In truth, Lin Ling also knew how fierce Genji's innate gift was. Thus, he didn't erupt with the space-time flames, but instead planned to use brute force to break through the darkness. His current strength was invincible in the half-step true immortal realm. He didn't believe that a mere Genji would be able to stop him. The sword in his hand began to burn. Since the start of the Pride tournament, he had been slowly erupting with his strength. This wasn't because he wanted to hide his strength, but because there was no opponent that could make him erupt with greater strength. Now, Genji barely had the qualifications. The two Dantians were wildly fusing together. One was at the 9th stage of the World King realm. The other was at the 8th stage of the World King realm. After fusing together, their strength had already entered the ranks of the true immortal realm. Lin Ling was like an unsheathed sword, becoming sharper and sharper. Unfortunately, Genji didn't sense it at all. Even those outside of the martial stage didn't know this. They shook their heads and sighed. There were also people cursing Lin Ling for not knowing what was good for him. As for the powerhouses of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, they all looked at the darkness of the martial stage with dignified expressions. In the World King realm, no one had ever been able to walk out of the darkness. Lin Ling was no exception. Darkness was the symbol of invincibility. Vice Principal Gong, in my opinion, this Lin Ling needs to be crippled. He has openly disobeyed your orders. Someone said as they looked at the Lotus stage. Everyone's complexion changed. How ruthless. They discovered that the one speaking was Xia Ren. The hunchbacked old man said with a dignified expression. But his eyes shined with a sinister light. He clearly wanted to use this chance to eradicate Lin Ling. Hearing this, Vice Principal Gong fell silent. To be honest, he thought highly of Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling had rejected him in front of everyone this time, and he couldn't put down his pride. A vice principal couldn't even command a genius of the academy. How could he continue to be a vice principal? But to cripple Lin Ling? He definitely wouldn't agree to this in his heart. Let alone crippling Lin Ling. Even if Lin Ling wanted to leave Azure Province, he still wouldn't agree. This was also the reason why he was disappointed. Lin Ling was bound to lose. After losing, he would have to leave Resplendent Academy. This was something he didn't want to see. This made things even more difficult for him. Lin Ling didn't retreat in the face of a strong opponent. How can we cripple him? Don't tell me that our Resplendent Academy is filled with people who admit defeat in the face of a strong opponent? At this moment, someone supported Lin Ling. It was Ancestor Longpa. Hee, a fellow who doesn't even put the vice principal in his eyes. How capable can he be? In my opinion, he will only exhaust Genji's strength. In the end, he will still kneel in the darkness. Xia Ren said sinisterly. What if Lin Ling doesn't kneel in the darkness? Master Xia Ren, don't tell me you will kneel in front of everyone? Ancestor Longpa said coldly. So what if I do? If Lin Ling kneels in the darkness, won't you, Ancestor Longpa, kneel in front of us too? Xia Ren immediately retorted. However, Ancestor Longpa didn't hesitate and nodded. Don't talk about kneeling. Even if he kneels, giving you 3 slaps won't be a problem. She knew that it would be difficult for Lin Ling to defeat Genji. However, she also knew that even if Lin Ling lost, he wouldn't kneel. Lin Ling had a backbone. All right, Vice Principal Gong will bear witness to this. The wrinkles on Xia Ren's face trembled. His smile became even more sinister. He seemed to know that Vice Principal Gong wouldn't cripple Lin Ling, so he didn't try to persuade him anymore. However, he knew that if Lin Ling lost, the infamy he would bear would be heavy. Chapter 2578. Walking Out of the Darkness. No one has ever been able to walk out of Genji's darkness talent. At the critical moment, Xia Ren's words were like adding oil to the fire. That's right. Facing Genji's invincible talent, Lin Ling had no chance of succeeding, unless there was a miracle. However, why did Lin Ling still have to bite the bullet? Was he toying with them? No miracle can be born. It was unknown who shouted this sentence, but it caused the resentment of the Resplendent Academy to surge to the heavens. Yu and the others clenched their fists. They never thought that Lin Ling, who had won such an honor, would be cursed like this today. But at this moment, a change finally occurred. No one had ever walked out from the darkness, but Lin Ling of the past could. Today's Lin Ling can still do it. The darkness suddenly surged like a tide, causing the surrounding sounds to disappear instantly. What happened? Look at the darkness. Someone exclaimed. Of course, he didn't need to say anything because many people had seen it. Suddenly, an incredulous thought rose in their minds. Could it be that Lin Ling was about to charge out of the darkness? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. One had to know that within the three academies, in terms of talent control, if Genji claimed to be number 1, no one would dare claim to be number 2. Other than the two strongest second generations, no one else had the confidence to rush out from the darkness. Not even 10%. Whoosh! At this moment, sword light flashed, as if lightning was leaping in the darkness. That sword was blinding. The darkness that was even more stable than the void was forcibly sliced apart at this moment. It was so terrifying. Rumble. Next, a figure rolled out of the darkness like a rolling gourd. It felt as if someone had kicked him out. When the figure fell off the stage, everyone saw that it was Genji. Boom. This scene was as shocking as the heavens themselves. Pa! Before they could recover from their shock, a young man in a blue and white robe slowly walked out from the rolling darkness with a sword in his hand. He was like a storm that was about to sweep through the world under the calm night sky. His sword was still huge, but it was telling everyone. No one could walk out of the darkness? Now there was. It was the Dark Horse King, Lin Ling. Looking at the youth who was like a sword god, all the experts on the Lotus platform stood up. Around the martial arts platform, those martial artists who were sitting cross-legged also stood up at this moment. Their mouths were wide open. Had a miracle really happened? Impossible. Genji's talent is invincible within the World King realm. His sword heart cannot be broken, and his martial arts are also difficult to break, unless he is at the true divinity realm. Vice President Gong said solemnly. He stared at Lin Ling in disbelief, as if he wanted to see through everything about Lin Ling. Everyone's hearts rumbled like thunder. They couldn't understand what was going on. You broke my darkness. On the stage, Genji crawled up from the ground, pointing at Lin Ling and exclaiming. His talent in darkness had always been successful, yet he had failed today? He couldn't believe the result in front of him. This isn't the first time. Unfortunately, Lin Ling slowly raised his sword and said indifferently. These words made many people suck in a breath of cold air. Could it be that Lin Ling had also broken Genji's talent? When this fellow fought Si Xuanmei, did he still hide a hidden card? Lin Ling, I want you to lose. Hearing this, Genji's face turned red and blue. This should be his moment of glory. He wanted Lin Ling to be cleanly defeated, and then prove that he was the strongest second generation of Resplendent Academy. He wanted everyone to know that their expectations of him were correct. However, he didn't win cleanly. Instead, he disappointed everyone. It was as if he had been ruthlessly slapped in the face by Lin Ling. Of course, it wasn't just him. Those who supported Genji were also ruthlessly slapped in the face. Even Vice Principal Gong was the same. Was this the Lin Ling that he wanted to abandon? Darkness return. Genji roared. The darkness on the martial arts platform was like a tide, swallowed up by him. You broke my talent, but don't think you've won. I can only say that you are stronger than I imagined. Now that my boundary has risen, I have already surpassed the World King realm. That is a boundary that you need to look up to. After darkness return, Genji's strength climbed higher and higher. His world essence was terrifying. This result caused the people who were previously shocked to become energized at this moment. That's right. Genji's strength wasn't his talent. He had other powerful methods. Defeat him. Many people felt like they had been slapped in the face by Lin Ling. Thus they roared out in anger. Even Vice Principal Gong subconsciously clenched his fists. Although he valued Lin Ling, Lin Ling's counterattack made him lose even more face. Thus, he wanted Genji to teach Lin Ling a lesson. Genji was originally at the peak of the World King realm, but now he's 2 realms higher. Someone immediately shouted out. It could be said that even if Genji didn't use his talent, just the power of his world essence was enough to crush all the other second generations. Lin Ling, didn't you say you wouldn't admit defeat? Let's see if you'll still admit defeat. Genji, beat him until he admits defeat. Beat him until he kneels down and admits defeat. Do your best. Within Resplendent Academy, many geniuses roared out. As you wish. Genji's voice became low and deep, like a dark lion roaring. His long hair became like a sea urchin, a ghastly sight. With a single step, the entire martial stage cracked open. It was terrifying. A strength that surpassed the World King realm by 2 realms. This was absolutely a half-step true immortal. This was the strongest strength that had erupted since the Pride tournament began. Even the other first generations in the distance had dignified expressions. This was a second generation? This was clearly a powerful generation, all right. Bang! Genji shot towards Lin Ling like a cannonball. With one hand behind his back, he punched out, seeming overbearing and confident. Following his terrifying punch, a dark lion appeared in front of Lin Ling. Its giant claws ruthlessly swept out, causing darkness to sweep through the martial stage like an astral wind. Still not enough. Increase my strength by 3 realms. Another roar came out from Genji's mouth. He punched out again. Another dark lion appeared, shocking the world. This dark lion was clearly even more terrifying. This was because it surpassed the World King realm by 3 boundaries. Genji can surpass 4 realms. Someone said in a dignified voice. This was because they had seen the most terrifying Genji before. And this was indeed the case. Genji's world essence strength climbed higher and higher, gradually surpassing the World King realm by 4 realms. He punched out with both fists, causing a storm of darkness to appear. 3 lions appeared in 3 different directions around Lin Ling, their claws ruthlessly sweeping out. 3 different directions. This sealed off all of Lin Ling's escape routes. At this moment, no one believed that Lin Ling could win. At this moment, time seemed to have stopped. Bang! In the end, the strength of all the lions gathered and exploded. Bang, bang, bang. The terrifying strength caused the martial stage to explode into small islands. This was the second martial stage to be destroyed after Lin Ling. Chapter 2579. Lin Ling in the midst of eruption. Terrifying, worthy of being the strongest second generation of Resplendent Academy. A half-step true god expert said with a pale face. Facing such a terrifying power, even they could only swallow their hatred in the underworld. Lin Ling, you deserve it. Now you know how strong senior brother Genji is. Damn. Damn Lin Ling. He obviously can't win against Genji, but he forced him to erupt with such power. This is a waste of Genji's energy. Damn. Senior brother Genji is noble. Lin Ling is lowly. Damn. At this point, no one thought that Lin Ling could win. Genji landed on a broken martial stage. His breathing was a bit rushed. He had erupted with 90% of his strength. Although it was a waste of his strength, he was very satisfied. At least he let everyone know that he, Genji, was the strongest. He opened his arms, looking up at the sky. Coming out of my darkness, Lin Ling, you are the first, but under my full strength. No one can win against me, not even in the World King realm. Miracles are not so easy to give birth to. His voice was filled with strong confidence, but it was also filled with confidence, as if he was proud. However, just as his voice fell, a cold voice sounded out. I'm sorry, miracles are not so hard to give birth to. The voice was calm, but it was like thunder, striking deep into everyone's heart. Everyone looked over, only to see Lin Ling holding his sword, blocking in front of him. That sword had actually blocked all of Genji's Dark Lion's attacks. He was like an undefeatable god of war. With a single sword, he had actually blocked the attacks of a 4th-level World King. At this moment, Genji's pupils shrank. How could this be? This was absolutely impossible. He was someone who could defeat 80% of a half-step true god. How could Lin Ling be so hard to deal with? You're only so. At the same time, Lin Ling drew his sword. His sword slashed out, a power even greater than Genji's erupted. The sword light was like water. The power that Genji had unleashed before was cut apart like tofu. Lin Ling was completely unscathed as he calmly walked out from the dancing power. His long hair, his blue robe, his sword, it was a shocking sight. The shock this time was even more terrifying than before. How can you still not be defeated? Genji stared deadly at Lin Ling. He had already unleashed such power, but Lin Ling was still unharmed? He roared angrily, finally erupting with all his strength. A strength that surpassed the World King realm by 5 boundaries. His speed also increased, almost reaching the speed of 2 realms. A streak of darkness shot towards Lin Ling. The space immediately exploded, destroying everything in its path. A fist shot through the sky. It didn't contain any martial arts. It was just a tremendous amount of world essence energy, ruthlessly suppressing Lin Ling. Seeing this, countless people held their breaths. They clenched their fists, their palms covered in sweat. Was there still a miracle? There shouldn't be any this time. However, the answer was that there was. Because the current Lin Ling was the Lin Ling who was in the midst of his eruption. The erupting Lin Ling was so terrifying that it could even alarm the great Azure God dynasty. Bang! Lin Ling sheathed his sword and also punched out, but his world essence energy was even greater than Genji's. Bang, bang, bang. The two people's fists collided. Layers upon layers of dimensional storms swept out. Many people were sent sitting on the ground. However, their eyes were still staring straight ahead. Defeated 80% of half-step true gods? Lin Ling maintained his punching posture, but his mouth had a cold smile. Looking at Genji, his face was pale. After facing Lin Ling, he finally knew how terrifying Lin Ling was. His punch seemed to have landed on a mountain. There was no reaction at all. Instead, Lin Ling gave him a strong pressure. I'm sorry, I'm invincible among half-step true gods. Bang! Lin Ling's world essence exploded. It was earth-shattering, and Genji was unable to block that punch. His body flew back. Lin Ling took a step. The stage beneath his feet crumbled into dust. He chased after Genji. Genji, Resplendent Academy's second generation #1. Not bad. To be able to force me to use my full strength. It's an honor for you to lose. Everyone around the stage could hear Lin Ling's tyrannical voice. Their hearts trembled. This was the erupting Lin Ling? How terrifying. Lin Ling defeated Si Xuanmei. He really did not use his full strength. Bang, bang, bang. Under Lin Ling's tyrannical voice, Genji was like a sandbag. He was beaten from the sky to the ground. Then from the ground to the sky, the entire three-ring city was shaken. As for the faraway second ring city, the martial artists were shocked. They were extremely excited. Finally, they saw a battle that was beyond their imagination. These geniuses were truly terrifying. Of course, it was not just Second Ring City. The entire Great Azure Divine Dynasty was watching this battle. Countless powerhouses had solemn expressions. A ninth stage world king. It was unknown if he relied on his cultivation method or talent to erupt with such strength. Was this invincible among half-step true gods? At the same time, Lin Ling had created a miracle. He was the genius who had jumped realms to fight, the genius who had jumped realms the most. I admit defeat. After an unknown amount of time, a pained voice floated down from the sky. The faces of countless people froze. On a broken stage, Genji was kneeling there, his face bruised and swollen. In front of him stood a handsome youth, looking down at him. The entire process was calm and collected. Who was stronger and who was weaker from the current situation, it could be clearly seen. Admit defeat. These two words were clearly imprinted in the hearts of every Resplendent Academy's second generation. It was like a resounding slap to their faces, leaving them speechless. Even Vice Principal Gong's face was red from the slap. He wanted Lin Ling to admit defeat for the sake of Resplendent Academy's honor. But now, Lin Ling had told him just who was the strongest second generation of Resplendent Academy. Just who should admit defeat? I'm old. Vice Principal Gong muttered to himself. At this time, towards Lin Ling, he only felt a deep sense of guilt. He didn't even dare to look up at Lin Ling. This youth who had fought so resolutely because he didn't want to admit defeat was now proud and powerful in his heart. I was wrong. Vice Principal Gong was the first to speak out. Then, in front of countless people, he knelt down towards Lin Ling. This! The crowd cried out in alarm. As the vice principal, his strength was monstrous. With just a move of his leg, he could shake the entire Great Azure Divine Dynasty. But now, in order to admit his mistake, he actually knelt down on one knee. No one knew of Vice Principal Gong's painstaking efforts. When he wanted Lin Ling to admit defeat, it wasn't because of Lin Ling, but because of Resplendent Academy. Therefore, if he didn't admit his mistake now, their Resplendent Academy might lose a powerful genius. If this genius were to leave, it would be a loss for Resplendent Academy. The other two academies would definitely be more than happy to snatch this genius away. Those who misjudged Lin Ling before apologize now. There was also a senior who shouted loudly. After saying that, he took the lead and knelt down on one knee to apologize to Lin Ling. The entire Resplendent Academy was silent, but soon a large number of geniuses also knelt down on one knee. Sorry, we were wrong. Although they had scolded Lin Ling before, it was for the sake of Resplendent Academy. They didn't want to lose face in front of the other two academies, so they wanted Gung to enter the finals and win glory for them. Chapter 2580. Meng Lu vs. Tian Kuang, the Battle of the Spotlight. Following that, a large number of youths knelt down. The scene was spectacular. Brother Ling. When she saw this scene, even Yu became emotional. Lin Ling had once again done something that would cause one to be deeply moved. This moment belonged to Lin Ling. Lin Ling, on the other hand, stared at the crowd emotionlessly. Without a word, he left the battle stage. Previously, he did have some resentment in his heart. However, Vice President Gong had personally knelt down to apologize. This made his anger disappear. After all, Vice President Gong was a prominent figure. Since he was willing to put down his pride and admit his mistake, how could Lin Ling be calculative? Moreover, Lin Ling was not that kind of person. As for Genji, he was still kneeling on the stage. His face was pale and filled with panic. Through the previous battle, he knew that Lin Ling's strength was definitely 6 realms above the World King realm. He could not help but think of the previous battle. Could it be that Lin Ling had defeated him at that time? Thinking of this, he suddenly laughed bitterly. He had willingly given up his position as the second generation's strongest. He even had a feeling that Lin Ling had already stepped into the first generation. Moreover, the first generation was not Lin Ling's limit. Even the great Azure God dynasty was not Lin Ling's limit. Losing to such an opponent, what was there to be unsatisfied about? Ironically, such a strong opponent had actually admitted defeat for him and allowed him to enter the finals. At this moment, he felt that he had lost face. At this moment, the entire shattered stage was still silent. The people from the other 2 academies looked at Lin Ling with complicated expressions. Many ancient martial artists looked at Lin Ling with serious expressions. They thought of how Lin Ling had risen step by step from the 200,000 second-generation geniuses to the finals. All of this was like a dream. Moreover, in terms of cultivation time, Lin Ling was actually the #1 genius of the Pride tournament. This was because his growth time was the shortest. "Xia Ren, why aren't you kneeling?" At this time, a sneer suddenly sounded. It was Ancestor Dragon Granny. At this moment, she was more excited than anyone else. She and that damned old man Xiaoran had a grudge for many years. She had always been unable to find a way to make the latter suffer. But now, thanks to Lin Ling, she had a way. Therefore, she rubbed her hands and walked out with a sneer. "Ancestor Dragon Granny, what are you doing?" Seeing Ancestor Dragon Granny's smiling face, Xiaoran's face turned pale. He looked at Ancestor Dragon Granny with a look of panic. Earlier, many people from the Resplendent Academy had knelt down to apologize, but Xiaoran hadn't. But now, did he want to escape this calamity? Everyone can see the promise you made earlier. Don't tell me you want to go back on your word. Ancestor Dragon Granny smiled sinisterly, causing many experts to smile and look at Xiaoran. You're ruthless. Xiaoran also knew that with so many experts present, he had no choice but to kneel. Hence, he knelt down without hesitation. Ancestor Dragon Granny arrived in front of him, blew on her palm, and viciously slapped him. Pa! The crisp sound of the slap seemed to land in Xiaoran's heart, causing his old face to turn red. He was an exceptional talent in the past, and he was also a boundary master. He was highly respected, but now he was slapped in the face in front of countless eyes. What a stinky face. Your old face is thicker than a city wall. My hand actually hurts from slapping you. What made him explode was that Ancestor Dragon Granny had slapped his face and actually despised his old face for having too many wrinkles and thick skin. Then he saw Ancestor Dragon Granny take off her shoe, which made him subconsciously ask, "What are you doing?" "I like to slap with my shoe." Ancestor Dragon Granny used her actions to answer him. Pa! Using a shoe to slap his face was indeed much more refreshing. You! Xiaoran's eyes were red. The reputation he had built for his entire life had been thrown away. Haha! The crowd roared with laughter. Being slapped in the face by the sole of a shoe, Xiaoran didn't need to show his face in the great Azure Divine Dynasty anymore. Perhaps tomorrow, when others met him, they would ask him if it felt good to be slapped in the face by a shoe. Papa! After 3 consecutive slaps, Ancestor Dragon Granny's heart was carefree, incomparably carefree. There was nothing more satisfying than using a shoe to slap your opponent's face in public. She didn't expect that Lin Ling would actually accomplish what she had dreamed of her entire life. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on Lin Ling. They never expected that Lin Ling would enter the finals. In their hearts, Lin Ling's image had already been raised infinitely. Especially the other 2 vice presidents, their faces were the most solemn. Was he invincible among half-step true gods? It was hard to estimate who would be the winner of this world's #1. Thinking of this, they immediately felt a huge pressure. Vice President Gong, who was at the side, immediately felt refreshed after apologizing. Lin Ling entering the finals was clearly better than Genji. Their academy's chances of winning first place had greatly increased. What's wrong, my two old friends? I can see that the sweat on your foreheads is bigger than soybeans. There's really no need to panic. The finals haven't started yet, so it's hard to say. However, our resplendent academy's luck is really bad. The strong geniuses have all been eliminated, leaving Lin Ling behind in the end. However, his strength has exceeded my expectations. You guys were right to remind me to leave one person behind between Genji and Lin Ling. Although I made the wrong choice, if I didn't, how would I be able to see the explosive Lin Ling? Haha. Vice President Gong couldn't help but laugh. The other two vice presidents' faces were gloomy, unable to find words to refute. After all, they only knew a little about Meng Lu and Tian Kuang's strength, so they were lacking in confidence. The semifinals would soon be Meng Lu and Tian Kuang's battle. This was a battle that would be the focus of attention. These two were the most famous among the second generation, and their strength had always been a mystery. Now that the two strongest were facing off, it seemed like they couldn't hide their strength anymore. Even Lin Ling was looking at the two indifferently. Since the start of the Pride tournament, the only person he was wary of was Meng Lu. Moreover, Meng Lu's appearance was also beyond his expectations. Perhaps he was Lin Ling's strongest opponent after coming to the martial god realm. Therefore, he also wanted to see how strong Meng Lu was. Lin Ling, who will win between the two of them? Other than Lin Ling, no one knew who was stronger, so Xian Yuan Gober asked curiously. The one facing me in the finals will undoubtedly be Meng Lu. Lin Ling said directly. Is he really that strong? Xian Yuan Gober and the others were surprised, but like Lin Ling, they were looking forward to the battle even more. Under everyone's gaze, two figures appeared on the stage. One of them had long hair like a blade, giving off a tyrannical aura. He was tall and sturdy, and his hands were also extremely long. It was Tian Kuang. I think that in this Pride tournament, the two of us are the strongest. Tian Kuang was the first to speak. His tone was calm, but it was domineering. Previously, he had seen Lin Ling's strength with his own eyes, but he wasn't afraid at all. This made people wonder if Tian Kuang was stronger than Lin Ling. Chapter 2581. The Demon God's Tomb. Meng Lu's voice was extremely strange. It was neither male nor female. Coupled with his white hair, it gave off a mysterious feeling. Most importantly, he floated on the martial stage like a god. Meng Lu, I know you are strong, but I want to know where my limit is. I've fought true God realm experts before, and I've defeated them, but I feel that you're stronger than a first-level true God realm expert. In this proud world tournament, only you have the qualifications to make me respect you. The rest of the trash don't even have the qualifications to make me look at them, including Lin Ling. Tian Kuang's voice constantly floated out. This was the most he had spoken since the start of the tournament, because only Meng Lu had the qualifications to make him speak so much. You give me the feeling that you are very strong, so I am also looking forward to seeing your strength. As for the others, they are nothing but chickens and pottery dogs. Meng Lu also spoke. Just as Tian Kuang thought, the others were all trash. Hearing this, the crowd immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. These two strongest second generations were really arrogant. Moreover, they didn't even put Lin Ling in their eyes. Then there was only one explanation. Their strength was enough to fight a true god. As for Lin Ling, he was only an invincible half-step true god. The two were different concepts. From the start of the Pride tournament, these two people seemed to be above the other second generations. They didn't seem like second generations at all. The Imperial Censor also spoke. Their strength should be able to fight a first-level true god. No matter what, these two are terrifying monstrous geniuses. The great Azure God dynasty can't let them go. The Grand Council official also spoke. The Imperial Censor nodded. Now, there should be many powerful forces that are moved by them. The great Azure God dynasty was very powerful in the Azure province, but there were many forces that couldn't be underestimated. For example, the Heavenly Court, Fortune Travel Manor, and Flying Dragon Organization. These were all organizations that were spread throughout the 9 province. Even if the great Azure God dynasty wanted to eradicate them, it was beyond their reach. Begin. A cold shout instantly sounded out, as if the horn of battle had been blown. Tian Kuang took the lead. His entire body emitted smoke. The smoke seemed to drift, but it was like a blade that could cut through the world. His cultivation was at the peak of the World King realm, but it had obviously risen by several realms. At least 6 realms. There are already 7. Sensing the terrifying Jieyuan aura, many experts shouted with solemn expressions. Far away from the stage, Genji's pupils constricted. They were both second generation first. Why was the difference so huge? He finally knew that even if he'd entered the finals, he was obviously not a match for those 2 people. First madness. Tian Kuang roared again. In the end, he increased his cultivation by 7 realms, and his body instantly vanished. With a speed that surpassed that of 2 realms, he shot toward Dreamflow. What a fast speed. This is the fastest speed I've seen since the Pride tournament. Countless second generations clenched their fists in disbelief. As for Meng Lu, he floated in the sky with his white hair fluttering in the wind. His eyes were half closed, and there was a cold look in them. He reached out with one hand, maintaining the posture of a clenched fist, but his 5 fingers suddenly spread open. Rumble! Circle after circle of white ripples shot out from his hand, and they continued to expand, as if they were going to envelop San Juan City. Elementary Grade 5 Boundary Martial Art, Divine Ripple Clouds. With this martial art, everyone knew that no one from the second generation would be able to stop him. Since the beginning of the Pride tournament, he was another genius with a 5th-level martial arts. At the same time, Lin Ling's expression changed. Because Meng Lu's cultivation realm increase was even more terrifying, reaching 8 realms. Meng Lu must have trained in some powerful martial art, or his talent gave him such an advantage. One must know that Lin Ling had 2 Dantians, so the second Dantian could raise 8 realms. But Meng Lu could do it too. How could Lin Ling not be shocked? The white ripples were very fast, causing Tian Kuang's expression to change. He roared in his heart, and his speed reached the limit. 3 realms speed. This guy! Even the 3 vice deans exclaimed in surprise. 3 realms speed. It could be said that with this speed, none of the second generation could attack Tian Kuang. After the 3 realms speed, Tian Kuang was getting closer to Meng Lu. His claws grew longer, and it was a shocking sight. Just 1 claw, and the battle would be over. The power of that claw would definitely be able to destroy 10 realms, or even more. Tian Kuang's martial arts and talent seemed to increase speed and strength. But in reality, he had already reached the level of 3 berserkers, and was even stronger than before. He made it. In just an instant, many people exclaimed. The white ripples were dodged by Tian Kuang, and they shot into the distance, causing the distant sky to split open. I won. Tian Kuang had a confident smile on his face. In a battle with Meng Lu, unorthodox martial arts were useless. The only way was to go all out from the beginning. This was because using unnecessary battle techniques might cause him to lose even faster. But in the next moment, a terrifying aura spread, causing Tian Kuang to look up, and his eyes narrowed. The sky in front of him had unknowingly turned into the land of the tomb of the gods. Tombstones sat in the sky, and paper money fell from the sky, giving off an indescribable feeling of loneliness. In the distance, a huge snow maple tree swayed, as if it was a testament to the ancient war between gods and demons. The tomb of the gods and demons. Moreover, this terrifying scene was seen by everyone on the ground, causing their bodies to tremble. What talent is that? No one knew what Meng Lu had done. At this moment, a group of people dressed in white, carrying coffins, sprinkling paper money, and sobbing as they passed through the sky. This was a funeral procession. This talent is really powerful. It looks like a 5th grade talent, but its potential is limitless. Even Lin Ling felt great pressure. This strange talent, I'm afraid even a stage 1 true god expert would be affected by it. Queen Qianji immediately said, as expected of the Tomb Guardian clan. She was lucky to have met the Tomb Guardian clan in the past, so she was familiar with the 9 states' 10 evils. In the Great Azure Divine Dynasty, not many people knew about the Tomb Guardian clan. The 9 states' 10 evils were the most mysterious and terrifying existences. To most people, they only appeared in rumors. What's the use? Tian Kuang was able to become the strongest second generation of Zhongling Academy, so he was no weakling. He roared and rushed forward again. However, wisps of white flames floated in front of him, blocking his path. But he was confident in his strength, so he still rushed forward. He avoided the flames, but when he was getting closer to Meng Lu, the flames moved. It seemed slow, but it enveloped Tian Kuang at the speed of 2 worlds. Tian Kuang had the speed of 3 worlds, so he could have avoided it. But there were too many strange flames around him, and as they floated, there was a rhythm of heaven and earth. He could avoid the first wave, but he could not avoid the second wave. Boom, 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 boom. After coming into contact with the flames, Tian Kuang seemed to be fine, and his body was unharmed. However, his face turned pale in an instant. He realized that his soul was being burned by the flames, and it was burning bit by bit. The flames were not harmful to the physical body, but directly to the soul. He was sure that even a wisp of flames would be able to kill a half-step true God expert. Chapter 2582. A truly formidable opponent. 5 berserkers wounding the heavens. Tian Kuang roared to the sky and used his strongest trump card. It was as if he had gone berserk and became even crazier. However, he did not lose his rationality. Using the sudden increase in strength, he charged out of the fire circle and pounced on Meng Lu. Tian Kuang is indeed worthy of his name. Go! Seeing this, the morale of the Tsongling Academy's geniuses soared. Even their dean was the same. Tian Kuang was obviously good at close combat. As long as he got close, even a first-level true god would be wary. As he got closer and closer to Meng Lu, the focal point of the battle was about to begin. However, Meng Lu seemed to have entered dreamland. He was still floating in the sky, looking mysterious. He muttered to himself, 5 berserkers wounding the heavens. As expected of the Kuang clan. This is a method to kill 1,000 enemies, but injure 800 of your own. Go! He instantly saw Tian Kuang's strengths and weaknesses. This method of forcefully exploding strength was actually a double-edged sword. It's enough to defeat you. Go! Tian Kuang's voice was filled with domineering aura. His left eye flashed. It was the berserk light. He gently placed his right hand under his body and swept it toward the sky, causing the sky to darken instantly. Very quickly, 3 realms speed. And the strength was enough to kill a first-level true god. Most importantly, although the claw seemed far away, it appeared in front of Meng Lu in an instant. Meng Lu was going to lose. Everyone had the same thought. That claw was too terrifying. Is it over? Go! Yu Yu and the rest were also solemn. However, Lin Ling kept staring at Meng Lu. Finally, he shook his head. Not necessarily. Go! Among the crowd, there were not many who thought that Meng Lu would not lose. Lin Ling was one, and so were the 3 vice deans and other experts. And the truth was as such. A sudden change occurred. Just as Tian Kuang's giant claw was about to hit Meng Lu suddenly raised his hands to the sky and looked up at the sky. An indescribable sound came from his mouth. It seemed to be a prayer. The terrifying thing was that the space around him froze. Time and space had stopped. His entire body turned white, so white that it was dazzling. And at this moment, that terrifying claw finally swept over him. But just as it touched him, something strange happened. Tian Kuang, who was still hundreds of meters away, was pulled by a mysterious force and instantly appeared in front of Meng Lu, unable to move. Dreamflow, on the other hand, was like a god of the underworld. His right hand slowly reached out, passed through Heaven Kuang's body, and suddenly grabbed. A multicolored light appeared in his hand. When he pulled it back, he suddenly clenched his fist. Crisp sounds rang out at the same time. Countless people saw the multicolored light explode, and a large amount of memory fragments scattered out. Soul extraction. At the same time, Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. Tian Kuang's soul had already dispersed. Tian Kuang is dead. His soul has been destroyed. The experts on the gigantic lotus said solemnly. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Could it be that the light that exploded was Tian Kuang's soul? What was going on? They clearly saw that Tian Kuang was about to defeat Dreamflow, but the moment he touched Dreamflow suddenly pulled Tian Kuang closer, and then his soul was extracted. This Dreamflow was too heaven-defying. In long-range attacks, Dreamflow's methods were stronger, but in close combat, he would die upon contact. Invincible. This was invincible. Unless it was a mid-stage true god expert suppressing him with a huge force, even if they were of the same realm, they would be his match. Without a doubt, this invincible battle shocked the great Azure God dynasty. The eyes of many hidden forces flickered, and they were considering extending an olive branch to Dreamflow. The experts of the great Azure God dynasty were puzzled. What was Dreamflow's background? His methods were actually so strange. Dreamflow wins. When the voice drifted out, everyone also began to accept reality. But who was the number one of the Pride world, they were also clear at a glance. The finals begin. After everyone was shocked for a full 2 hours, a voice immediately drifted out. However, many people looked at Lin Ling and seemed to have guessed that Lin Ling did not dare to go up. Of course, no one mocked Lin Ling. After all, Lin Ling and Dreamflow were not geniuses of the same era. Lin Ling was not a match. This was normal. As for the 3 major academies, apart from Heavenly Saint Academy, the people from Resplendent Academy and Songling Academy were all ashen. The Pride tournament was clearly Heavenly Saint Academy's martial stage. They could only be supporting characters. Come up, Lin Ling, kill me, and the Pride tournament's number 1 is yours. However, at this moment, a cold voice suddenly drifted out. Dreamflow, who was in the sky, looked indifferently at Lin Ling and said. This surprised many people. Dreamflow was challenging Lin Ling? He was already recognized as number 1. Why was there a need to challenge him? Moreover, Lin Ling was weaker than Tian Kuang. Was this battle meaningful? However, Lin Ling's eyes flickered. He did not speak and walked step by step toward the martial stage. Lin Ling's actions also surprised everyone. No one thought that Lin Ling would really accept. This Lin Ling dares to accept the challenge? Even Vice Principal Gong found it hard to believe. He felt that Lin Ling admitting defeat was a very normal thing. Why is Big Brother Ling going up? Why? Of course, it was not only Vice Principal Gong who did not understand Lin Ling's actions. Even Yu and the rest were the same. One had to know that Lin Ling had previously told her that Dreamflow could defeat a large number of first-stage true gods. This made her realize that Lin Ling was probably not the other party's match. Therefore, she guessed that Lin Ling would admit defeat. In reality, this was indeed the case. Lin Ling was invincible in the half-step true god realm and could fight with a first-stage true god. However, to defeat a first-stage true god was a little difficult. In an instant, the entire 3-ring city was in turmoil. The martial stage was already shattered. Therefore, both of them were floating in the sky, attracting countless gazes. Now, these 2 were the 2 strongest second generations. One was ranked number 1, and the other was number 2. There was no need to doubt their strength. Of course, the number 1 was obviously more powerful and had unfathomable might. I knew you would definitely go up. You wouldn't give up such an opportunity because your eyes are different from others. You're very calm and don't have any fear towards me. In the sky, Dreamflow was the first to speak. Lin Ling looked at the other party and couldn't help but sigh. This Dreamflow was indeed powerful. This was because Dreamflow's eyes were also very calm. However, there was a cold glint in the calmness. This kind of opponent gave people a mysterious feeling. This was a truly formidable opponent. I have a feeling that you want to kill me. Therefore, I'm here. Lin Ling said indifferently. In fact, other than this reason, he also wanted to know where the mystery of the Tomb Guardian tribe lay. Previously, when Dreamflow defeated Tian Kuang, it gave Lin Ling the feeling that Dreamflow was like a porcupine. He couldn't move, and the moment he moved, his soul would be stolen. How did you know? After Lin Ling's voice, the always mysterious Dreamflow's eyes flickered. Chapter 2583. The Invincible Meng Lu. Hearing this, Meng Lu fell silent and looked deeply at Lin Ling. In fact, among all the second-generation descendants, the only one he feared was Tian Kuang. But now he discovered that this Lin Ling wasn't simple. This was because Lin Ling seemed to know something. Disregarding everything else, there weren't many people who knew about Underworld Masters. Underworld Masters were also a type of boundary master, but they specialized in the Underworld Dao. This was also the mystery of the Tomb Guardian clan. You're right, and I do want to kill you, Meng Lu finally said. Is it the 4 great commanderies? Lin Ling suddenly asked. Ha, Lin Ling, my opinion of you has changed. Meng Lu smiled for the first time, causing the crowd to cry out in alarm. Could it be that Meng Lu, who had never placed Lin Ling in his eyes, now considered Lin Ling to be a more formidable opponent than Tian Kuang? That's right, someone from the 4 great commanderies used a large sum of money to hire me to buy your life. Of course, the 4 great commanderies aren't enough to enter my eyes. Those who would pay a large sum of money for your life are ambitious and ruthless. Meng Lu said. Sovereign Marquis. Lin Ling's eyes immediately lit up. However, he'd just finished speaking when Meng Lu roared with laughter. But aren't you underestimating me too much? Do you think mere divine crystals can move me? That's an insult to me. I want to kill you for another reason." These words clearly startled Lin Ling. He frowned and said, "Is it because of your origin? You know more than I thought." "Yes, I need to guard a tomb, but the tomb can't do without a master. Originally, I wanted to guard Tianquang's tomb, but I discovered that he didn't meet my requirements, so I thought of guarding your tomb. As for the reason, it's because you're a ninth-stage world king, but you're the third generation of the second generation. In terms of brilliance, you're indeed above Tianquang. So that's how it is." Oh, Lin Ling suddenly understood. The Tomb Guardian clan was one of the 9 prefecture's 10 evils. Their style of doing things was strange. They needed to guard the tomb of an expert, and Dream Flow had chosen him. "You knew that I wanted to guard your tomb, so why did you come up here? Could it be that you think you can defeat me? Or have you found a way to break my invincibility?" Dreamy Flow added. After their conversation, he also knew that Lin Ling was not a simple person. When he thought about how Lin Ling had started from a nameless nobody and ended up in the finals, he began to value Lin Ling even more than Tianquang. And that kind of emphasis was not on strength, but on scheming. Lin Ling's scheming was even more terrifying than Tianquang's. "No." However, Lin Ling nodded honestly, which stunned Meng Lu. "Then why did you still dare to come up here? Are you not afraid of death?" "You can understand it that way." "All right, enough nonsense, let's fight." Lin Ling shook his head as his fighting spirit boiled. "You really want to fight me?" Meng Lu was still in disbelief. "Do I look like I'm joking?" Lin Ling shook his head speechlessly. Although Meng Lu wanted to kill him, Lin Ling felt that Meng Lu was also an honest person, so Lin Ling did not hate him. Of course, although Lin Ling did not hate him, he would not show mercy, because this was a battle of life and death, and also because this was a battle where Lin Ling had stepped into the true immortal realm. If he refused to fight, then he had a feeling that he would not be able to break through the true immortal realm. Although the people on the ground did not know what they were talking about, they vaguely heard that Lin Ling seemed to admit that he was not Meng Lu's match. He's not Meng Lu's match, but he still dares to fight. Is he crazy? Didn't he see Meng Lu's invincible technique? I think he's not even as good as Tianquang. He'll be defeated in one move. Countless voices rang out, and everyone was shocked. Vice President Gong frowned. He also did not understand why Lin Ling wanted to die. As for the Sovereign Marquis and the powerhouses of Grand Court Commandery, they sneered. They were already prepared to collect Lin Ling's corpse. "Red Jade Tiger, this guy from your Martial God Battalion is very similar to you. He knows that he is invincible, but he still wants to fight. He won't turn back until his head bleeds. What a stubborn man," Lord 8th said. Red Jade Tiger was secretly sweating on behalf of Lin Ling. Even he did not know how Lin Ling would break through invincibility. Under the eyes of tens of thousands of people, the finals began. An oppressive atmosphere filled the sky. What was terrifying was that Meng Lu treated Lin Ling even more seriously than he treated Tianquang. He directly sent out a mysterious funeral procession. The demon god's tomb appeared in the sky once again. This mysterious talent could affect a martial artist's mentality. If a martial artist's mentality was unstable, at least 40% of their strength would be suppressed. Moreover, with the appearance of the demon god's tomb, Meng Lu's strength increased greatly. Lin Ling can't even block one move. Meng Lu is actually using his full strength from the start. Is he going to kill Lin Ling cleanly? Not necessarily. I feel that Meng Lu is respecting Lin Ling. That's why he didn't play with Lin Ling. Instead, he gave Lin Ling a clean cut. A series of exclamations could be heard. In the sky, Lin Ling smiled. He naturally knew that Meng Lu respected him as an opponent. In fact, Lin Ling knew that Meng Lu believed that Lin Ling was inferior to Tianquang. However, Meng Lu was indeed a terrifying opponent. He was calm, composed, and decisive. Even if such an opponent was weaker than Lin Ling would not underestimate him. Not to mention that Meng Lu was stronger than him. At this moment, Lin Ling also saw Meng Lu raise his hands and clench them into fists. It seemed that he was going to activate the 5th grade martial art. Most importantly, Meng Lu had both hands. Looks like this guy is going to kill me without any hesitation. As for the might of that martial art, Lin Ling had seen it before. Killing him wouldn't be difficult at all. After all, Meng Lu had raised his strength by 8 boundaries to the peak of the World King realm. God Ripple Cloud, Dark Ripple Cloud. Meng Lu coldly shouted. He was like a god of the underworld. His fists opened wide. Black and white waves of light rushed towards Lin Ling, their speed reaching the speed of 2 realms. Before they even approached Lin Ling, the terrifying pressure made it difficult for the martial artists on the ground to breathe. Black and white, this was even stronger than Tianquang's. There was no suspense in this battle. Lin Ling could raise his strength by 6 boundaries, but Tianquang had raised his strength by 7 or even 8 boundaries. Yet, hadn't he still been defeated? And reality was the same as imagination. The destructive waves of light immediately submerged Lin Ling. He's dead. This wasn't an evenly matched battle to begin with. Looking at the sky, countless people shook their heads. They weren't surprised by this result. Vice Dean Gong sighed. Even now, he still didn't understand why Lin Ling wanted to continue fighting. This was simply throwing away his life. No, Big Brother Ling can't be defeated. This must be fake. Yu Yu and Xian Yuan shook their heads. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. As for Falling Flower, Flowing Water, and the others, their eyes widened. They had followed Lin Ling from the Martial God Battalion and had witnessed Lin Ling create miracles. In their hearts, Lord Lin Ling was the most incomprehensible genius they had ever seen in their lives. However, after such a genius came to the Pride Tournament and met an even more invincible genius, would Lord Lin Ling perish? Chapter 2584. Flame Coffin Descends. Only those who had enmity with Lin Ling felt that everything was normal, and even wished to see this scene long ago. But right at this time, in the sky, the 2 black and white light waves did not penetrate the horizon. Because in front of the 2 light waves, a wretched figure holding a sword blocked the black and white light waves. What? In that instant, the people who shook their heads previously were shocked like celestial beings at this moment. One had to know that terrifying light wave could kill all half-step true god realms, but Lin Ling blocked it. Even Meng Lu's eyes flashed. But he could also tell that although Lin Ling blocked his attack, it was clearly a deathbed struggle too. I thought that a miracle would be born, but it's merely a mantis blocking a chariot. Someone stared at the sky and suddenly let out a gloating voice. Clearly, many people also discovered that Lin Ling was indeed a deathbed struggle. But even so, Lin Ling still used his sword to block the 2 light waves. That fighting spirit and tenacity made countless people admire endlessly. You all should learn more from him. No idea which academy senior looked at his disciples and said at this moment. Those disciples nodded one after another. For Lin Ling to be able to become a dark horse, what he relied on was not luck, but fighting spirit and willpower was the basis of his pride. At this time, blood overflowed from the corners of Lin Ling's mouth. His eyes were red, and the boundary essence within his body was also roaring crazily. Meng Lu's attack was indeed terrifying. The power was too powerful. However, he had already prepared to refine all of the harvests he obtained from the 9 Dragons realm previously. And now, borrowing these divine crystals, his realm was also constantly rising. He knew that with his strength not long ago, he was bound to lose. Therefore, his only chance was to break through realm. Otherwise, he would have long erupted with wind and cloud transformation, rising 3 realms again, and dodging that black and white light wave. The gap between me and him is too great. If my realm doesn't rise, this is an unequal battle. Therefore, raise your realm for me. Lin Ling roared in his heart. But in everyone's eyes, his life was in danger. The merciless light wave was going to drown him at any time. The sword in his hand began to tremble, as if his strength was exhausted. A flash in the pan? Many people sighed and shook their heads. Boom. But the moment they shook their heads, a terrifying aura finally erupted. The strength of a 10th-level world king surged outwards, unstoppable. With that enormous power, Lin Ling's sword became even more stable. Moreover, the Ashura sword formation flew out with the heart of the sword mixed within. Together with Lin Ling, they blocked the 2 waves of light. This miraculous scene caused everyone's eyes to widen. Lin Ling actually broke through? But at the same time, a strange matter occurred. Lin Ling broke through to the 10th level of the World King realm, but the strength within his body continued to surge out, becoming increasingly strong. Even Meng Lu sucked in a cold breath. Unknowingly, he had taken Lin Ling to be an opponent as powerful as Tianquang. However, was that all Lin Ling had? It had to be known that Lin Ling's first Dantian had reached the 10th level of the World King realm. At this time, the remaining power of the divine crystal was rushing towards his second Dantian. The second dantian began to crazily rise from the 8th layer of the Realm King realm. Pressure was truly worthy of being the best lubricant for advancement. 9th level of the World King realm, 10th level of the World King realm. The boundaries of the two dantians were equally divided. Of course, the first dantian was clearly more formidable. However, the fusion of the two dantians had caused Lin Ling's strength to more than double. This caused the originally unfair scales to begin to tilt. Go! Meng Lu was indeed worthy of being called a calm genius in battle. As he saw that the situation wasn't right, he immediately waved his hand. Countless mysterious flames fluttered out, like wisps of ghostly fire. These flames could easily wound a first-level true divinity powerhouse and burn their souls. Most importantly, Lin Ling couldn't avoid them. And these flames and waves of light joined together to suppress Lin Ling. Seeing this terrifying scene, everyone's breathing quickened, their complexions brilliant. They never imagined that Meng Lu would erupt with such a method against Lin Ling. This method was even more ferocious than what he had used against Tian Kuang. In truth, they didn't know that in Meng Lu's heart, Lin Ling had already surpassed Tian Kuang. Lin Ling, he is the second strongest of the second generation. Even if Tian Kuang hasn't died, he still isn't Lin Ling's match. It was unknown who shouted out, but this caused all the martial artists present to fall silent. That's right. Before this, Tian Kuang hadn't dared to receive the attack of the waves of light, but Lin Ling had. Moreover, he had persisted until now. This seemed to explain everything. Most importantly, the aura that erupted from Lin Ling's body was even more formidable than Tian Kuang's. What a pity, what a pity. If Meng Lu wasn't here, Lin Ling would have been the proud number one. But many powerhouses also shook their heads in pity. This was because these two attacks were already suppressing Lin Ling. Lin Ling absolutely wouldn't be able to block them. Of course, Lin Ling also saw the flames floating towards him. The aura of these flames let him know that this was a middle 5th grade martial art. This was a martial art that only a true divinity could cultivate. Thus, he couldn't block it. Boom. Before the flames even got close, Lin Ling spat out another mouthful of blood. The waves of light had also begun to injure him. At the same time, the mysterious flames that filled the sky sealed off all of Lin Ling's escape routes. He had nowhere to run. Finally, the flames gathered together as if a demon god had awakened, causing the sky to become incomparably resplendent. The earth immediately fell silent. This time, Lin Ling should have been completely defeated. Is it finally over? Haha. Meng Lu also let out a light breath. He didn't know why, but the pressure that Lin Ling gave him was increasing. This guy who had repeatedly created miracles seemed to be omnipotent. Now that he saw Lin Ling completely die, he finally felt at ease. Of course, while he was satisfied, he also felt a bit of regret. It seemed that he was somewhat reluctant to kill such a monstrous genius like Lin Ling. From now on you, Lin Ling, will become my Meng Lu's first tomb. Even if countless powerhouses enter the demon god's tomb in the future, you, Lin Ling, will always be the first tomb. Haha, Meng Lu said as he looked ahead. Thank you for your love, but I have no plans to be your tomb. However, just as his voice fell, an indifferent voice floated over from the other side. At the same time, multicolored flames appeared in another part of the sky. There, a youth carrying a flame coffin slowly walked over. He held a sword at an angle, looking like a demon god that had awakened from the demon god's tomb. He was Lin Ling. A flame coffin, a blue robe, and an ancient sword. This strange and demonic scene undoubtedly shocked Three Ring City into silence. Before, Lin Ling had faced 2 great attacks and had nowhere to retreat. Yet he hadn't died. Just what had happened. At this time, Lin Ling was slowly walking forward, but the mysterious flames around him were rapidly shooting towards him. However, Lin Ling's steps didn't stop. He seemed to be motionless, but he strangely avoided these flames. The entire process was as light as clouds and as smooth as flowing water. Speed of 2 realms. This time, no one made a sound, but Meng Lu was the first to cry out in alarm. He had always given off a mysterious aura, but this was the first time he had revealed a surprised expression. And because of this, the pressure that Lin Ling gave him was growing increasingly great. Chapter 2585. Death upon contact. Those flames have 2 realms speed. Lin Ling seems to be able to dodge them easily, but he definitely has 2 realms speed, or even surpassed it. This means that if all the second generations were to attack Lin Ling at the same time, Lin Ling would be able to dodge them with his speed. It's the mysterious flaming coffin behind him. I didn't expect Meng Lu to be as mysterious as Lin Ling. Many people realized that Lin Ling seemed to be getting stronger and stronger in the battle with Meng Lu. And this kind of genius who got stronger the more he fought was obviously more terrifying than those geniuses with strong innate talents. Most importantly, this was originally a one-sided battle, but Lin Ling seemed to be starting to create one miracle after another. Lin Ling could be called the king of miracles. Not only has his speed increased, even his strength has increased. The flames coming out of his body give off a feeling that we can't underestimate him. The three vice deans also spoke one after another. Every cloud has a silver lining. Lin Ling seemed to have quietly risen. Vice President Gong's body trembled, his hands trembling with excitement. The flaming coffin had descended. This gave him an intuition that Lin Ling seemed to be blowing the horn for a counterattack. Although he still didn't know if Lin Ling could win, he knew that Lin Ling would definitely make his move. This martial art of yours is very powerful. It actually raised your strength by 3 realms. In addition to your previous increase in strength, you're twice as strong as Tianquang. At this time, Meng Lu spoke again. His words surprised Genji the most. He then laughed bitterly. Compared to Lin Ling, the difference was like heaven and earth. You could have used this mysterious flaming coffin from the start, but you didn't. You wanted to borrow my attack to break through. Meng Lu said again. He was from the Tomb Guardian clan and was unpredictable, but the flaming coffin gave him an extremely mysterious feeling. Lin Ling didn't deny it and nodded directly. Right now, he was in his strongest state. He had used all his trump cards and was preparing for the final clash. It's my turn. Lin Ling carried the flaming coffin on his back. Borrowing the flaming coffin's endless power, he held his sword and shot at Dreamflow. Dreamflow's long-range attacks were very powerful, so the only way to defeat him was to engage in close combat. Upon seeing this, Meng Lu's expression turned grave as he analyzed the situation in his mind. Compared to Tianquang, Lin Ling's boundary essence was twice as strong as Tianquang's. However, his speed was slightly slower. After all, Tianquang had the 3 realms speed. Of course, although Lin Ling's speed was a bit slower, Lin Ling's overall strength was even more terrifying. This was because Lin Ling possessed Sword Heart. Death Blaze! Dreamflow shouted out loud. The mysterious flames that controlled the demon god's tomb all rushed towards Lin Ling. Previously, Tianquang had the 3 realms speed, but even he couldn't avoid the flames burning his soul. Lin Ling definitely couldn't avoid it either. He could avoid the first, but he couldn't avoid the second. True enough. The mysterious flames that filled the sky surrounded Lin Ling. Seeing this, everyone clenched their fists. They were extremely nervous. Their thoughts were the same as Dreamflow's. Lin Ling was clearly about to be burned by the flames. However, Lin Ling still carried the flame coffin as he shot forward. The flame coffin had a terrifying power gushing out, allowing him to avoid the flames. Some flames even blocked off all of Lin Ling's paths. However, even though Lin Ling seemed to have no way out, he still walked forward. This feeling was as if Lin Ling was an illusion. He had clearly created another miracle. Dreamflow's pupils trembled. He cried out in disbelief, "You are also an enchantment master." Before, the biggest reason why Tianquang couldn't avoid his flames was because those flames were arranged according to the enchantment. That was the underworld array. But Lin Ling had avoided it. Moreover, his footwork was strange. It was clear that he had seen through his enchantment. Lin Ling, you can do it. Amazing. From no hope, you've gradually risen to 90%. This Lin Ling is indeed the king of dark horses. Under the ground, voices of admiration sounded one after another. Lin Ling had clearly used his willpower and strength to completely convince those geniuses. Most importantly, those who admired Lin Ling were not only from the Resplendent Academy, but also the geniuses from the other 2 academies. However, Lin Ling was getting closer and closer to Dreamflow. Next, he would face the invincible Dreamflow. Previously, Tianquang had also approached Dreamflow, but in the end, his soul was scattered. This made everyone know that Dreamflow was a hedgehog. Touching him would result in death. His talent and ability were truly heaven-defying. At this moment, everyone's breathing stopped. They wanted to see if the invincibility could be broken, and also wanted to see if Lin Ling was a flash in the pan. You can do it. Yu and the others all shouted. They were even more nervous. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling also drew his sword. All of his realm essence condensed on the Azura sword formation. He abandoned the 48 swords, and with sword heart and the flame coffin on his back, he stabbed toward Meng Lu. This sword could be called a sword from beyond the heavens. The power of this sword could kill a first-level true god. Fire Dao and Sword Dao completely merged at this moment. The two ultimate martial arts also intersected. Even Lin Ling did not expect that he would display such a terrifying sword. However, whether it could defeat Dreamflow, he was still not sure. What a sharp sword. Dreamflow's white hair danced wildly, like a demon god standing in the sky. Even now, he had to admit that Lin Ling was terrifying. If he did not have that invincible ability, he admitted that he was not Lin Ling's match based on his own strength. Come, he muttered to himself and chanted the sacrificial words. The mystery of the Tomb Guardian tribe was also completely revealed. His entire body turned white like a god, but also like a demon. Those who touched it must have triggered the forbidden. At the same time, the sword also arrived. The most crucial space-time was about to be triggered. However, Dreamflow's talent was indeed terrifying. The moment the sword touched Dreamflow's body, a strange aura spread out. Soul extraction. In the distance, Lin Ling's expression changed slightly as he sensed a mysterious sacrificial power enveloping his body. Time also stopped at this moment. By the time he reacted, a Tomb Guardian god had already appeared in front of him. It was Dreamflow. His expression was emotionless as his right hand slowly reached towards Lin Ling's body, wanting to extract his soul. At this moment, everyone's expression was solemn as they once again witnessed Dreamflow's heaven-defying ability. This was true invincibility. Lin Ling defeated. His soul scattered. This was the thought in everyone's heart. Dreamflow's talent was certain to kill anyone who touched it. Impossible. How can there be such an invincible talent in the chaos of the universe? Is it really untouchable? There must be a flaw. Lin Ling's body could not move, but his mind was thinking intensely. Even Li Xiaoyao of the past had never seen such a heaven-defying talent. However, he believed that there was no such thing as an invincible talent. The reason why he was invincible was because he had not found his flaw. All-encompassing demonic eyes. In a flash, Lin Ling shouted in his heart. His left eye became demonic as countless talismans flickered. He did not believe that there was an invincible existence in the world, so he wanted to use the all-encompassing demonic eyes to see through everything. Chapter 2586. Number 1 in the world. Even Dreamflow believed that Lin Ling's soul had already dissipated. However, in the next moment, he was shocked to discover that it was extremely difficult to extract that soul. This was because Lin Ling's soul was too massive, as if it was connected to his body like tree roots. If he didn't have the innate talent of the Tomb Guardian clan, he wouldn't even have the qualifications to touch souls, let alone soul extraction. He had never imagined that Lin Ling would be such a monstrous genius in all aspects. Physical body, talent, speed, attack, fire path, sword path, and even soul. However, although it was difficult to get it, it only took more time. As for Lin Ling's soul, it was as if it had left the water's surface. Even the people on the ground could see a huge light emerging from Lin Ling's body. But at this moment, Lin Ling's pupils changed. He seemed to be able to control his sword. There is no such thing as invincibility. Almost at the same time, Lin Ling's furious roar rang out like a fury that could burn the heavens. His sword hummed and shot towards Meng Lu's forehead. This was because Dreamflow's innate talent was very heaven-defying. Touching any part of the body would cause one's soul to be extracted. Only the hair-sized area between one's eyebrows was safe. That was the place to break the invincible realm. Not good. Sensing the cold sword, Dreamflow seemed to be pleasantly surprised from a dream. His expression changed drastically as he quickly let go of Lin Ling's soul and retreated. Unfortunately, it was too late. The sword had already pierced between his eyebrows. Boom. As if the taboo of the ceremony had been broken, the entire sky exploded, and strands of mysterious energy spread out. Meng Lu's face was pale, and a sword hung between his eyebrows. You lost. Almost at the same time, a proud voice drifted out as if it had alarmed the 9 regions. Under countless gazes, Lin Ling held his sword in one hand. The tip of the sword pointed at Meng Lu's eyebrows. Meng Lu stood there, blood flowing from his forehead, his eyes filled with disbelief. Many people would never forget this scene for the rest of their lives. The words "you've lost" were still ringing in their minds. The invincible dream flow had actually been broken by Lin Ling. One had to know that from the very beginning, the gap between Lin Ling and Dreamstream was very, very big. It was so big that no one thought that he could win. There was no hope at all. However, Lin Ling relied on his willpower and fighting spirit to narrow the gap step by step. He broke the dream flow in everyone's hearts and finally turned defeat into victory. This Lin Ling was worthy of being called the King of Miracles. My strength is already in the first generation, and I'm not weak in the first generation. The reason why I can't dominate the first generation is because my cultivation base is too weak. In my opinion, all the second generation are just chickens and dogs. No one can defeat me but you. A dispirited voice came out of Dreamflow's mouth as he stared at Lin Ling. Why didn't you kill me? Lin Ling's sword only needed to move forward a bit more, and he would have been killed. I didn't fight you because you're invincible, but because I want to fight myself. I want to challenge the limits, I want to fly higher, I want to dominate the 9 states. So, I just need to win. There's no need to kill you. Lin Ling muttered to himself, put away his sword, and stood up. The biggest reason why he fought was not because of his opponent, Dreamflow, but because of himself. Only by being fearless, only by stepping over the knot in his heart could he walk toward a broader sky. His opponent was himself. I didn't expect to meet such a terrifying genius in Qingzhou. I'm sincerely convinced. Lin Ling, I believe that it won't be long before you leave Qingzhou. Dreamflow looked at Lin Ling in shock. Lin Ling saw him as an opponent, but not as a mortal enemy. He also saw Lin Ling as the most terrifying opponent in his life. Until now, only Lin Ling had succeeded in breaking the invincibility. He even thought that no one in the same realm could break his invincibility in this lifetime. In this Pride tournament, you Lin Ling have already surpassed the rest of the world. In the end, he personally admitted that Lin Ling was first. The ground remained silent. After a while, an uproar rose and fell. Everyone watched as Lin Ling went from a nameless nobody to the King of Dark Horses, to the King of Miracles, and then to the second generation of the Pride tournament. The entire process was soul-stirring and memorable. Good. Vice President Gong of the Resplendent Academy was so emotional that his eyes were moist. Old Gong, we're sincerely convinced by this genius of your Resplendent Academy. Even the vice presidents of the other 2 academies spoke solemnly. After such an intense battle, they also believed that Lin Ling deserved to be called the Pride Tournament. Lin Ling. After a brief moment of silence, the entire land was filled with cheers. Those who were familiar with Lin Ling all had tears in their eyes, and they were extremely excited. Of course, those who wished to see Lin Ling dead were extremely gloomy. Lin Ling had almost died several times, but Lin Ling was lucky enough to escape death time and time again. Moreover, he was getting stronger and stronger. This junior must be killed. The Marquis of Sovereign Justice muttered to himself as he rubbed his fingers with his hands behind his back. In the past, although he wanted to kill Lin Ling, he wouldn't do it personally. He also wouldn't spend the effort to kill Lin Ling. Now, however, he felt that it was necessary to put in some effort to kill Lin Ling. He's already the #1 enemy of our commandery. If we don't kill him, he'll be a nightmare for our commandery. The sovereign of the Grand Court Commandery muttered to himself. After a cold snort, he strode away. Obviously, everyone had their own thoughts, but soon, a faint laughter drifted out. Lin Ling, the champion of the Pride Tournament, can enter the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. I, Chi Yuhu, will present the Marshal's seal to Lin Ling on behalf of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. From now on, Lin Ling is the Marshal of the Martial God Battalion. Chi Yuhu waved his arms and laughed proudly. Boom. Countless people were shocked. The Marshal of the Martial God Battalion, the leader of the 6 battalions. This also meant that Lin Ling was now a member of the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. This was the identity that all the geniuses in the world yearned for. The sovereign of the Grand Court Commandery, who was about to leave, trembled violently. Lin Ling had become the Marshal of the Martial God Battalion. It would be difficult for him to kill him. What a wonderful battle. Even I am nervous. Lin Ling, very good. At this time, the censor stood up and looked at Lin Ling with a smile. He looked as if he wanted to see through Lin Ling. This was because even he thought that Lin Ling was bound to lose. However, Lin Ling seemed to be hiding a secret that allowed Lin Ling to turn defeat into victory. You have become the champion of the Pride Tournament. At the same time, you will be rewarded with the disaster-releasing pill and 3,000 Renhuan pills. Moreover, you can enter Second Ring City. After that, the censor announced the rewards. This made countless people breathe heavily. Those rewards were priceless. Thank you, sir, Lin Ling said lightly. With the disaster-releasing pill, he, Lin Ling, had the chance to step into the true God realm. However, don't be too complacent. There are countless experts in the great Azure Divine Dynasty. There are many people who are more powerful than you. The censor said again. Lin Ling nodded. His cultivation level was not the highest in the great Azure Divine Dynasty. Therefore, he would not be complacent. After receiving the rewards, the group of people left one after another. However, at this time, a smiling voice rang in Lin Ling's ears. Lin Ling, are you interested in reporting to the Flying Dragon Organization? If you become an assassin of the Flying Dragon Organization, not only will you be able to wash off your wanted list, but you will also have the Flying Dragon Organization as your backing. This voice was very strange. It seemed to be secretly reminding Lin Ling. This made Lin Ling smile slightly. He did not say anything and nodded lightly. Chapter 2587. The reactions of all the major forces were shocked. Of course, the forces that had enmity with Lin Ling were also considering whether they should shake hands and make peace. This year's Pride Tournament is undoubtedly Lin Ling's stage. Not only has he become famous in the Great Qing Divine Dynasty, he has even taken over the position of Marshal of the Martial Gods camp. If all of this is true, the Diyuan Mansion cannot afford to offend him. Although the Diyuan Mansion has a grudge with him, it is not too big and can be resolved. Understood. It's good that you understand. No matter what, you have to let him vent his anger. You have to endure the beating and scolding. In the past, Great Yuan Mansion's Yuan Eep and had provoked Lin Ling and was killed by Lin Ling. The Great Yuan Mansion was furious at that time. A mere Lin Ling dared to be so arrogant? Was he courting death? But now they didn't dare to be arrogant. They wanted nothing more than to curry favor with Lin Ling. Looking at his background and talent, he can't be compared to Meng Lu, but he still won. This guy has so many secrets. No matter if the space-time divine steel is with him or Queen Qianji, I must get it. The Sovereign Justice Marquis strode away. He coveted the space-time divine steel, so he would definitely not let Lin Ling go. Everyone left, but the people of Three Ring City were still talking about it. They were all shocked by how Lin Ling had turned defeat into victory. In fact, many people couldn't understand how Lin Ling won. However, Lin Ling had used his willpower and fighting spirit to create miracles time and time again. They felt that Lin Ling could win because he relied more on his willpower. When the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy left, they held their heads high and puffed out their chests proudly. What are you so proud of? If it was Lin Ling, we would admire him, but you? Haha, just a bunch of clowns. That's right, you guys made Lin Ling admit defeat and let Genji go to the finals. Your faces are really thick. The one we admire is Lin Ling, not you fence-sitters. The geniuses of the other two academies spoke in disdain, causing the geniuses of the Resplendent Academy to open their mouths, unable to refute. As for the crowd, Genji followed silently, his heart laughing bitterly. At that moment, Meng Lu also left. However, he had a somewhat dispirited look on his face. He had suffered quite a blow. Meng Lu, although you're from the 9 states' 10 evils, it doesn't mean that you're the strongest monstrous genius. You must learn to be courageous. We, the Gravekeeper clan, sent you here to gain experience. We want you to see yourself clearly. At this moment, a faintly discernible voice sounded in Meng Lu's mind, causing him to be shocked. How could the pride of the Tomb Guardian clan disappear from his body? I know. Next time, I will defeat him. As expected of one of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils, Meng Lu immediately adjusted his mentality after experiencing a defeat. At this moment, Lin Ling and the others had returned to the Rainforest Market. Even the second generation of the Resplendent Academy is back. It seems like they didn't get a good ranking in the Pride Tournament. That should be the case. Compared to the other 2 academies, the Resplendent Academy is still a little weaker. Your information is too outdated. I just received news that the shopkeeper of the Rainforest Market got a good ranking. That can't be. I often go to the Rainforest Market. That shopkeeper is very young. He got a good ranking? Heavens, such a person is actually by my side? What's his ranking? Did he enter the top 10? Number 1 in the Pride world. In the streets and alleys, the rogue cultivators were chatting with each other. TSK, number 1 in the Pride world. That's a lot of gold. This shopkeeper must have entered the great Azure Divine Dynasty. I have to curry favor with him. Many cultivators were heading towards the rainforest market. One had to know that they could only stay in First Ring City because their status was too low. Obviously, getting to know a junior with great potential like Lin Ling was beneficial to them. For a moment, the business of the rainforest market was booming. Many people came because of the reputation. This made Gong Yongjiang smile. It was as if he saw countless divine crystals floating towards him. He discussed with Lin Ling and planned to open a rainforest market in Second Ring City. They even planned to open a branch in Third Ring City. Lin Ling naturally agreed and handed it over to Gong Yongjiang to manage. His current status and strength had greatly increased. He also had the qualifications to do so. Not long after, Vice Principal Gong came personally. Haha, Lin Ling, congratulations. Congratulations. A voice immediately sounded out, causing everyone in the market to be overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. The vice principal's strength was monstrous. He could be said to be the person in charge of half of Fifth Ring City. Greetings, Vice Principal. Greetings. However, Lin Ling replied indifferently. Yu and the rest smiled bitterly. It seemed that Brother Ling was still blaming the vice principal for abandoning him. However, this was normal. Brother Ling was a person who clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. After being abandoned, Brother Ling would definitely hold a grudge. Vice Principal Gong quickly looked at Ancestor Long Po. He knew that Lin Ling seemed to be giving Ancestor Long Po a lot of face. Ancestor Long Po understood and said, Lin Ling, this time, you have won great glory for the Resplendent Academy. The Academy intends to reward you with 50 million divine crystals and can satisfy any of your conditions. Yes. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded. A verbal apology was not practical. Only a reward was a sincere apology. Then, he pondered for a moment and said a large number of materials. Vice Principal Gong felt dizzy. Lin Ling had listed no less than 200 million kinds of materials, and many of them were extremely precious. Their total value was probably no less than 50 million divine crystals, and even if one had divine crystals, they might not be able to buy them in a short period of time. This guy! Vice Principal Gong shook his head helplessly. However, if he wanted Lin Ling to let go of his prejudice against him, he had to pay these treasures. Moreover, he was the one who was wrong first. Okay. In the end, Vice Principal Gong nodded and said with a smile, from today onwards, you are part of the Resplendent Academy's first generation. In the Academy, other than the few forbidden areas, you can walk freely. Moreover, you can enter Three Ring City. Thank you, Vice Principal Gong. Lin Ling nodded with a smile. That smile made Vice Principal Gong feel bitter. This stubborn brat finally stopped complaining about him. At this time, Lord Eighth and Chi Yuhu arrived and congratulated Lin Ling. Chi Yuhu looked at Lin Ling with satisfaction. I didn't expect that in such a short time after leaving the Martial God Barracks, you would not only become a second generation, but also the strongest second generation. Thinking back on it, it all feels like a dream. In the past, the Martial God Barracks had supported Lin Ling to enter the Resplendent Academy. At that time, Chi Yuhu's greatest expectation for Lin Ling was that Lin Ling would become a genius of the three great academies. Who would have thought that not only would Lin Ling succeed, but he would also perform a feat that exceeded his imagination. Now he was very satisfied. Very satisfied. Even Lord Eighth was extremely satisfied. When Chi Yuhu had introduced Lin Ling to him, he didn't think highly of Lin Ling. However, reality had proven that his judgment was inferior to Chi Yuhu's. Now, he raised both hands in approval of Lin Ling accepting the Marshal's seal. In fact, Lin Ling didn't care about the Marshal's seal from the beginning. However, he had to give Chi Yuhu face. Chapter 2588. The tyrannical song sword evolved into an immortal treasure. Although we agreed to let you inherit the Marshal's seal, the Martial God Battalion belongs to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty. 3 months later, you must go to the Great Azure Divine Dynasty and receive the Marshal's seal. Red Jade Tiger said. He seemed to be even more excited than Lin Ling. Lord Marshal, why do I feel like you're throwing a mess to me? Said Lin Ling helplessly. Chi Yuhu's pupils constricted. What kind of mess was that? That was the position of marshal that countless strong cultivators dreamed of. He and Eighth Jew were completely speechless towards Lin Ling. After talking with these ancient powerhouses for a long time, Fortune Manor's Sunset Glory also came to congratulate him. Of course, Lin Ling also asked about the Immortal Temple, but he was still looking for it. However, after Lin Ling became the champion of the Pride Tournament, Fortune Manor would work even harder to find it for him. This was an unchanging fact. That night, Yu Yu and the others congratulated Lin Ling. After the banquet, Lin Ling hugged his 2 wives and went to sleep. Looking at his 2 lovely wives, Lin Ling couldn't help but smile. He didn't plan to sleep, but to check his cultivation. Currently, both of his Dantians were at the 10th stage of the World King realm. His strength could defeat a first-stage true god. Then, he swallowed the disaster-unleashing pill. He could clearly feel that the world spirit in his Dantian had changed. It began to transform into a world river, and the world essence's power became even greater. Moreover, Lin Ling split the pill's efficacy into 2, allowing both of his Dantians to slowly increase. Of course, Lin Ling knew that it would take some time before he could truly break through. On the second day, someone from Resplendent Academy delivered materials and divine crystals. These divine crystals are all yours. Lin Ling didn't plan on taking the divine crystals himself. Because he had swallowed all his savings, there was still a lot of unrefined spiritual energy in his body. Therefore, he planned on giving them to Yu Yu, Falling Flower Flowing Water Sword, and the others. After all, the rainforest market had always been under their care. They followed him, and as a lord he had to do something. My lord is mighty. Haha, we are going to step into the ranks of the 2nd generation too. Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the others were all excited. For the next 3 months, all of you will work hard and strive to enter the top 100 of the 2nd generation. As for Yu Yu, you must enter the top 10 of the 2nd generation. Lin Ling poured cold water on her. Sir, you want us to enter the top 100 among 70,000 people in 3 months? Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword and the others cried out in surprise. If you can't do it, then you're not qualified to follow me. Lin Ling looked at them indifferently and said, only pressure will generate motivation. Only then will we fight to the death. Hearing this, Falling Flowers Flowing Water and Swords group shuddered. If it was someone else who said this, then they would definitely be disdainful. But these words came from Lin Ling's mouth, so they firmly believed it without a doubt. This was because Lin Ling had led by example and repeatedly faced the pressure head-on. Other things aside, the battle with Dreamstream was the best example. My lord, I will definitely enter the top 100 in 3 months. I will definitely live up to your expectations. Chess Boy, D by MO, and the others all nodded solemnly. In a distant place, their masters were extremely depressed when they learned of all this. Chess Boy, D by MO, and Falling Flowers Flowing Water Sword all had masters. But no matter how their masters spurred them on, Chess Boy and the others were lazy. On the contrary, Lin Ling's words made these guys' fighting spirit soar, and they even dared to challenge the impossible. Who was their master in the end? In the following days, Lin Ling also focused on helping Yu Yu and the others improve their strength. Yu Yu and the others had cultivation resources, and with Lin Ling's guidance, their ultimate martial arts also quietly improved, and they all stepped into the true realm of Tao. Yu Yu even comprehended the heart of 5 elements. Of course, Lin Ling himself was not idle. He used the materials given by Vice President Gong to forge the Tyrannical Song sword. His sword was currently at the level of a precious weapon, but it was no longer compatible with Lin Ling's strength. If they fought, the sword would break easily. Therefore, he upgraded the Tyrannical Song sword to the level of an immortal treasure, and it was a 5th grade immortal treasure, which increased the chaotic energy by 2 to 5 levels. One had to know that a 1st grade immortal treasure would increase the chaotic energy by half a level, while a 2nd grade immortal treasure would increase the chaotic energy by 1 level, and so on. The chaotic energy was like the heart of sword, and its attack power was extremely strong. Lin Ling did not upgrade the Tyrannical Song sword in other areas, but only focused on increasing the attack power. That was because swords were known for their attacks. After spending a long time, the new Tyrannical Song sword was finally forged. It was completely black, and the Azura Chi was extremely strong. At the same time, Lin Ling also cultivated the Azura sword formation to the 2nd level. A total of 81 swords. When the sword formation appeared, the sky changed color. Moreover, among the 81 swords, there were 2 swords that could not be underestimated. One was the Heart of Sword, and the other was the chaotic sword brought by the tyrannical Song Sword. It could be said that in 3 months, Lin Ling's strength had increased by 30%. He knew that Meng Lu, geniuses like geniuses must have also increased their strength, but in terms of the difference, no one could compare to Lin Ling. 3 months later, the day to receive the marshal's seal had arrived. Early in the morning, Lin Ling walked out of the Yulin market with Yu Yu and Xian Yuan Gober beside him. When the 3 of them came out, they immediately attracted the attention of countless people on the street. Some handsome young men who came here for the first time almost wanted to walk over to Yu Yu and flirt with them. However, the cultivators beside them immediately reminded those guys, causing them to break out in cold sweat. Those were actually Lin Ling's women? Lin Ling, this name was at the outermost area of Qingzhou. He was an emperor-level figure who dared to provoke him. Lin Ling, I'm here. At that moment, a steady voice suddenly sounded, and a short and strong young man walked over from afar. It was Heisher. The battle between you and me can finally begin. After Heisher arrived, he first bowed. That respect was not feigned. Lin Ling's gaze immediately swept over him, and he could not help but smile. Looks like you've recovered in these 3 months, and your heart of stone has also improved. Although Heisher had lost an arm, he had recovered with the help of rare treasures. Most importantly, his heart of ultimate martial path, which had disappeared, had also recovered and improved slightly. Heisher was calm, but he could not help but smile proudly when he heard that. From falling from the spiritual pedestal stage to rising again in just 3 months, this was not something that anyone could do. So he was also proud, which was rare for him. However, there's no need for you to fight with me. However, Lin Ling quickly spoke again. What, senior brother Lin Ling, could it be that you're afraid of me? Heisher frowned and said. Although he was confident that he was not Lin Ling's opponent, his strength had increased greatly, and he should be able to give Lin Ling a headache. So he thought that Lin Ling was afraid of him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.